Chapter 523. He took off the red storage bracelet and gave it to Zhu Liang. Then Yang Tian took out a blue storage bracelet. For most of the day, Du Bin's 5 subordinates were busy. When the amount had reached 25 trillion star crystals, Yang Tian finally stopped. At this time, there were still 7 bracelets that he hadn't taken out from his armor storage. It's about time. That's all for now. I'll bet on myself to win. Yang Tian was no longer prepared to put up any more bets. If he won this time, not only would he be able to get back the beast cores that he had bet, but he would also be able to get a bonus of almost 50 trillion. Du Bin had almost doubled the value of the beast cores that Yang Tian had bet. Together with the other valuable items, the total value of the items in these storage bracelets was close to 10 trillion. This was something that Yang Tian didn't expect. Yang Tian had greatly underestimated the value of these beast cores. Yang Tian didn't have to worry about the bets. Zhu Liang had quickly arranged everything for Yang Tian. After that, when he received the bonus, as long as Yang Tian handed over the countervailing tickets, the Universe Bank would transfer the full amount of star crystals to Yang Tian's anonymous account. Of course, Yang Tian could also choose not to hand over the countervailing tickets. But if he did that, it would be equivalent to selling the beast cores that he had bet to the Universe Bank at a low price. This was something that the Universe Bank couldn't ask for more. After finishing the bet, Yang Tian put away the items, hugged Du Bin, and then turned around and walked out of the room. Phew! After Yang Tian left, Du Bin couldn't help but let out a long sigh. This was the first time that he had seen an individual with so much wealth. Sure enough, one couldn't compare with another. Du Bin shook his head and sat on the wide chair. Sir Supervisor, can we leave now? Du Bin's 5 subordinates only came back to their senses after Yang Tian had left for a while. They looked at each other, and one of them bowed and asked. Whether it was the 5 of them or Du Bin, the situation that they had just encountered was like a dream. Du Bin nodded. The 5 of them turned around and left the room, closing the door behind them. After the 5 of them left, Du Bin adjusted his seat. Suddenly, Du Bin froze. He sensed something in his waist pocket. Du Bin was wearing a loose black robe with 2 large pockets on both sides of his waist. This was a type of clothing designed for ordinary humans. The fabric was made of plant fibers, and it was very breathable. Many cultivators bought it and wore it. This kind of clothes was also designed and produced by the Shuangjiao Group. Du put his left hand into his pocket. There were 2 round objects. Before he could take it out, Du Bin's eyes widened in shock, because he already knew what it was. Beast core. Taking them out, Du Bin's breathing quickened at once, because there were 2 beast cores, one purple and the other golden. Superstar Warrior level and Superstar Warrior level beast cores. After being stunned for a moment, Du Bin remembered that Yang Tian had hugged him before he left. At that time, he thought that it was a courtesy from Yang Tian's race. He didn't expect that Yang Tian would take the opportunity to put the 2 beast cores he wanted the most in his pocket. With Du Bin's current salary, even if he worked for a few thousand years, he still wouldn't be able to buy these 2 beast cores. With these 2 beast cores, Du Bin was confident that he could become a superstar realm cultivator, and his position in the Universe Bank would also be greatly improved. It wouldn't be a problem for him to be in charge of a star field. Although the Universe Bank was a commercial organization, and no force wanted to offend it, when necessary, they still needed to use force. Therefore, the Universe Bank actually had a large number of cultivation experts, but the number couldn't be compared to the Superstar Divinity Temple. After a long time, Du Bin finally calmed down his excitement. After living for so many years, he understood a principle, and that was how much you put in, you would get in return. Conversely, you would pay for what you got. Yang Tian wasn't familiar with him at all, so why would he give him 2 such precious beast cores? When he left, Yang Tian didn't give him any hint at all. Should he go and ask Yang Tian now? After this thought appeared in his mind, Du Bin shook his head. This was obviously not appropriate. What was it for? After thinking for a long time, Du Bin had a vague idea. Therefore, he immediately called the 5 people from before, as well as the beautiful staff member who brought Yang Tian in and the young man. After the 7 people entered the room, Du Bin looked at them with a serious face for a long time. Being stared at by Du Ben with a serious face, the 7 people didn't know why their supervisor was like this and couldn't help but feel afraid. The Universe Bank's rules for its employees were actually stricter than the superstar divinity temples. They had set up strict reward and punishment rules, and the punishments were very strict. After looking at the 7 people for a full 10 minutes, Du Ben finally spoke. "Is your family all right?" These people all had family members, and they were all people who cared about their families. To be able to work in the Universe Bank, even as an ordinary employee, they had to go through a strict selection process. Other than ability, they also had to test their character and family conditions. They didn't want those who didn't have the ability, those who were cunning, and those who didn't have a family. If it was on Earth, if a big company chose people like this, it would probably be difficult to recruit all the people. However, the universe was very big, and there were many people. No matter what kind of people they were, they could find a lot of them. After Du asked this question, the 7 people became even more nervous and quickly nodded. Du said indifferently, "You better forget about what happened just now. Otherwise, whoever makes a mistake will receive the highest level of punishment." This was the first time the 7 people saw Du Ben speak to them so seriously, and the 7 of them couldn't help but tremble. The 7 of them had seen the highest punishment before. Originally, they wanted to talk about this matter because it was a topic for small people to show off, but now they really had to forget about it. After the 7 people nodded in fear, Du Ben waved his hand and let them leave. After the 7 people left, Du Ben muttered to himself, "Yang Tian, this is all I can do for you now." In fact, Yang Tian gave Du Ben the Beast Core for this purpose. He believed that Du Ben was a smart person and knew what to do. Yang Tian wasn't afraid, but he didn't want to attract trouble. He didn't want to appear on the new rich list of some entertainment magazine in the near future. Time passed very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, more than a day had passed. The gambling battle began. Yang Tan, Yaki, Yel, Misigu, Yixing, Huji, Shichen Liangxing, Injiati, Jingguang, and Weiyu Mujiao, 10 cultivators who participated in the battle, boarded a small warship and headed to Songman Planet. There were also dozens of huge warships accompanying them. After flying for more than an hour, the fleet stopped near Songman Planet. Yang Tian looked outside, and what appeared in his eyes were all densely packed warships. Suddenly, a huge silver-white warship came over at high speed. The front half of this warship was like a duckbill fighter made by humans on Earth, and the rear part of the warship was made up of several triangles, which was streamlined overall. Goddess Shi Chen's warship. Suddenly, a woman's voice sounded in the lounge. The one who spoke was Weiyu Mujiao. The arrival of Goddess Shi Chen's warship meant that Goddess Shi Chen was also here. Chapter 524. Many people didn't expect that Shi Chen Goddess would come to watch the wagered battle. Looking at Goddess Shi Chen's ship outside, Yang Tian could not help but wonder if she still remembered him after such a long time. A few minutes later, with dozens of corvettes clearing the way, the silver-white flagship entered the other side of Songman Planet and disappeared from Yang Tian's sight. Only then did Yang Tian turn around and look behind him. This resting cabin was very big and could easily accommodate hundreds of people. At this moment, there were only a few dozen people. Other than Yang Tian and the other 10 people participating in the battle, the others were just followers. Everyone's expression was not good, and they seemed to have a lot on their minds. This was not surprising. The next battle was a battle of life and death. The opponent was very strong, and failure meant death. This was true death and leaving this world forever. It was not like having a body destroyed by the opponent and then reforming it. In fact, Yang Tian was also very worried. It was just that he had a psychological advantage over the other 9 people. That was, he had a battle partner, the little blue dragon. With the little blue dragon, 1 man and 1 dragon were like 2 people fighting and would not feel lonely. Sometimes, fighting was just like living. The arrival of Goddess Shi Chen was beyond the expectations of both sides. The fleets of both sides had no choice but to start adjusting their defenses. The Superstar Celestial Temple could only swallow their anger and adjust their fleet that had stopped to another position. Hung Dun naturally came along and was on the ship that Yang Tian and the others were on. When the ship stabilized in space, the door of the resting cabin that Yang Tian and the others were in opened, and Hung Dun in black armor walked in. They were about to face a battle of life and death. No one was interested in bowing to Hung Dun. Hung Dun did not care. He glanced at the crowd and said indifferently, "I know that everyone is very dissatisfied with me because you were chosen to participate in the battle. If we were in a different position, I would be dissatisfied too. But I am the leader and you are not. The temple has given instructions. If you win, each of you will be rewarded with 1 billion star crystals and can leave here and return to the temple at any time. Of course, you can also stay and not be under my control. I hope that all of you can obtain the final victory. This is not only for the Divine Palace, but also for your lives." After Hung Dun finished speaking, he turned around and left the resting cabin. In the resting cabin, from the moment they set off until now, other than Wei Yu and Mu Jiao's surprised exclamation, no one else had spoken. After Hung Dun left, someone finally said, "Yakiel, Misigu, Yaxing the 5 of you. Do you regret it now?" The person who spoke was Huli He, a short man. "Why do you say that?" the tall Yale asked as he turned around to look at Huli He. "That's because you guys are Hung Dun's closest subordinates." After saying that, Huli He laughed. Yaki, Yale, Misigu, and Yaxing all stood up and coldly looked at Hauga. However, Hujai only glanced at the 4 of them and snorted disdainfully. Hujiha was a superstar monarch rank cultivator. Even if the 4 of them joined forces, they wouldn't be Hujiha's opponent. The 4 of them understood this. Although they were angry, they could only look at Hujiha with dissatisfaction and couldn't do anything. The reason why the 4 of them were angry was naturally because Hujiha had spoken their minds. Hung Dun should have been watching the situation in the resting cabin. When he saw that a fight was about to break out in the resting cabin, he immediately said, "Get ready to get off the ship. I hope that your fighting strength is as good as your mouth." Hung Dun was clearly talking about Hujiha. Yang Tian and the others could now completely ignore Hung Dun because they would no longer be restricted by him in the following battle. There could only be 2 outcomes, life or death. If they died, they would have nothing and would not know anything. If they didn't survive, in addition to the reward, they could leave here immediately. What if they knew that they were chosen and immediately ran away? In that case, the result would be no different from death. The Eternal Temple wouldn't want them, and they would be chased by the Superstar Divine Temple. The Superstar Divine Temple was in charge of this aspect, was Great Priest Empty God. How could a puny superstar rank cultivator escape the pursuit of Great Priest Empty God? Unless they left this universe. Therefore, after being chosen, they could only bite the bullet and fight. As soon as Hung Dun's voice fell, the spaceship began to descend to the ground of its Songman planet. Seen from outer space, the Songman planet was gray with small patches of green in the middle. When the spaceship entered the atmosphere and was less than 10,000 meters above the ground, Yang Tian realized that the green patches were the lakes on the Songman planet. The lakes were very large and surrounded by green plants. As the spaceship descended, Yang Tian also saw the existence of clouds. It seemed that the water source of this planet was still very abundant. After about a few minutes, the spaceship stopped at the foot of a mountain called Lagu on the Songman planet. After the spaceship stopped, the cabin door opened. Yang Tian let out a long breath and was the first to walk out of the resting cabin. Zhu Yangshi immediately followed him silently. After exiting the resting cabin, the 2 of them put on their helmets. After Yang Tian and Zhu Yangshi left, the people in the resting cabin slowly walked toward the cabin door with extremely complicated feelings. What was about to greet him might be death. In this kind of battle, even if he could not defeat his opponent, he could not admit defeat. After leaving the spaceship, the intelligence system of the armor immediately reported the environmental data of the Songman planet. Overall, it was not bad. Except for the moist air, there was nothing else. Therefore, Yang Tian took off his helmet again. He did not know how many times he had faced a battle that he was not confident of winning. Perhaps during the battle, Yang Tian would not think about winning or losing, life or death. However, before the battle, he could not avoid such thoughts. Laga Mountain was not high. It was about 100 meters tall, but it covered a large area. Looking up from below, one could see that the top of the mountain had been flattened. After staying outside the spaceship for a while, everyone walked out of the spaceship one after another. Hung Dun also walked out. He glanced at everyone and then turned to walk toward the top of the mountain. Starting from the foot of the mountain, there were stone steps that extended to the top of the mountain. The people from the Temple of Eternal Life had already reached the top of the mountain. Everyone's figures flashed on the stone steps. In less than 10 seconds, they appeared at the top of the mountain. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. When Yang Tian and the others arrived at the top of the mountain, 4 huge balls flew over and floated in 4 directions on the top of the mountain. For this gambling battle, many people who could not be present could only watch the battle videos. These 4 big balls with a diameter of about 10 meters were the most advanced cameras. They could process everything here into a 3-dimensional image and transmit it to the world outside this planet. Yang Tian looked up at the 4 big balls. He smiled and waved his fist. Chapter 5:25. Yang Tian believed that Qin Fei, who was in the Superstar Divine Temple, will be able to see the situation here. Yang Tian's guess was correct. Qin Fei was sitting on the ground barefooted in the Goddess Palace, and the situation on Laga Mountain was displayed in front of her. Hong Yuzhou was standing to the side with his cane, and the white-robed maid Larry was standing behind Qin Fei. She was even more nervous than Qin Fei as she stared at the screen. At the same time, in the Great Universe Palace, Great Priest Tai Yu was also staring at the screen in front of him. With your original strength, it will be very difficult for you to win. It will depend on how you use rune energy. Rune energy is not only an auxiliary and defensive power, but it can also become a powerful offensive power. Great Priest Tai Yu muttered as he looked at Yang Tian on the screen. In addition to Great Priest Tai Yu, Great Priest Mei Chun, Great Priest Kaya, Great Priest Empty God, and the others in the Superstar Divine Temple were also watching this battle. They were probably watching this battle because Goddess Shi Chun was here. It had been many years since they had seen Goddess Shi Chun, and these old people were very nostalgic. In the era of the Shi Chun goddess, most of them were just ordinary priests. After so many years, Goddess Shi Chun still looked the same, but they had aged a lot. The top of the mountain was circular and several kilometers in diameter. The people from the Superstar Divine Temple and the Eternal Temple were about 400 meters apart. Ordinary people couldn't see each other clearly from a distance of several hundred meters, but for cultivators, it was very close, and they could clearly see each other's expressions. After Hung Dun arrived, he directly sat on a spacious chair that was about 2 meters high that was set up for him. Hung Dun's several hundred guards stood behind him in an arc, silently looking at the Eternal Temple's side. The Eternal Temple's side was the same, and several hundred people were gathered there. The tall and exquisite chair in the middle was still empty. In addition to the people from the Superstar Divine Temple and the Eternal Temple, there were several dozen to 100 people gathered in the outermost area of the ring-shaped mountain. These people were the representatives of the Universe Bank and various families. Du Bin was one of the representatives of the Universe Bank. Because Yang Tian had given Du Bin 2 expensive beast cores, Du Bin naturally had a good impression of Yang Tian. When Yang Tian arrived, Du Bin set his eyes on Yang Tian. Among the big clans that came, the most conspicuous ones were the Taichu clan, the Shichen clan, and the Jishu clan that rarely showed themselves. These clans were the ones who had set up the bets, and were also the ones who had placed the biggest bets. Although Yang Tian had bet 25 trillion star crystals, compared to the total amount that these families had bet, it was still a long way off. Because they knew that Goddess Shi Chun would be watching the battle in person, at least half of the patriarchs of the clans came in person. It was a very friendly gesture. Of the 2 temples, more than half of the families had chosen the Eternity Temple. The patriarch of the Taichu family was Taichu Buohong. At this time, Taichu Buohong was sitting among the people of the Taichu family. Taichu Shishing, who had fought with Yang Tian, was also present. What was worth everyone's attention was an old man from the Jishu clan. He was wearing a black robe and had yellow hair, but his face looked very young, only 60 years old. This old man's name was Invincible Jishu. In the universe, very few people dare to have such a name. It was probably because he had inherited Lamlin's personality. This old man was already a great star lord many years ago, or perhaps he had already broken through to the great star god realm. On the superstar god temple side, there were a total of 10 empty seats. Yang Tian glanced at them and casually picked up a chair and sat tens of meters away from Hung Dong's group. Zhu Yangshi immediately followed and stood behind Yang Tian. Zhu Yangshi was very excited at the thought of seeing goddess Shi Chun. Hu Jia, he was the same as Yang Tian, unwilling to sit next to Hung Dong. In the end, other than Yaqi, Yale, and the other three, all of them stayed far away from Hung Dong. Hung Dong couldn't say anything at this time and just coldly glanced at Yang Tian and the others. Not long after they sat down, goddess Shi Chun finally arrived on the Eternal Life Temple side. She was wearing a red robe and surrounded by a group of blue-robe maids. She slowly walked to her seat. During this process, other than the Superstar God Temple and the Jishu family, everyone stood up to show respect to goddess Shi Chun. Yang Tian looked at goddess Shi Chun curiously. The impression this woman gave him changed a little. In the small world of the Star Mine Master, goddess Shi Chun was a little mysterious in Yang Tian's eyes. But now, she was like a high and mighty goddess. This goddess naturally referred to the goddess in China's legends. Her face was still so beautiful, but it lacked a kind of pure aura. Of course, this was just Yang Tian's personal feeling. When Yang Tian stared at goddess Shi Chun, she seemed to have sensed something and glanced at Yang Tian. Separated by hundreds of meters, the two's eyes met. Yang Tian didn't dodge and smiled at goddess Shi Chun. The corners of goddess Shi Chun's mouth also curled up, and then she calmly turned her head. At this moment, Yang Tian was no longer a small fry who could be killed by the Star Quarry's master in one move. When goddess Shi Chun first came out, her realm seemed to be the superstar realm, but now, Yang Tian couldn't see her realm. In such a short time, her realm rose to such a powerful level, which surprised Yang Tian. Because goddess Shi Chun didn't undergo transformation, she still had soft light blue hair. After everyone stood up and bowed, goddess Shi Chun didn't sit down immediately. Instead, she said indifferently, "The 20 warriors who fought today, whether you are from the Superstar Divine Temple or the Eternal Temple, you all did well. You fought for the lives of the majority of the people in this star field. I believe that the people living in this star field will always remember you. After this battle, as long as you win, no matter which side you are from, I can fulfill a small wish of yours as long as it's within my power." After saying that, goddess Shi Chun sat down. Goddess Shi Chun's words were naturally broadcasted through the live broadcast, and many people saw it. Seeing this, the great priests of the Superstar Divine Temple all frowned. She was obviously trying to win people's hearts. No matter where this woman went, she would always bewitch people. One had to admit that goddess Shi Chun's words showed her magnanimity and won the favor of many people. Although they were dissatisfied, the great priests couldn't stop her. So beautiful! In the goddess palace, when Qin Fei saw goddess Shi Chun's appearance, she couldn't help but praise her. Perhaps it was because they were both goddesses that Qin Fei compared herself to goddess Shi Chun. "Goddess, you are even more beautiful than her." The white-robed maid, Larry, comforted Qin Fei at this time. Hearing Larry's words, Qin Fei smiled and then frowned, because the battle was about to begin. Chapter 5:26. This battle was a one-on-one battle between two cultivators of the same level. The order of the 10 battles was not from high to low, nor was it from low to high. They were randomly selected. On the side of the Superstar Divine Temple, Pakant, who was next to Hung Dun, and a young woman in white from the Temple of Eternal Life walked onto the field at the same time. At this moment, Du Bin stood up and walked between the two of them with a large tablet in his hand. The 10 battles had already been inputted into the machine that was specially used for random selection. Pakant pressed on the device first, and the woman in white from the Temple of Eternal Life also pressed on it. Suddenly, a light blue light was projected from the device, showing a three-dimensional image several meters in the air. The image kept flashing, showing the 10 battles. Pakant and the woman in white both looked down at the device in Du Ben's hand. At this time, everyone was a little nervous, especially for the 20 people who were going to participate in the battle, because the next battle would determine their life and death. It would be best if they won. Not only would they live, but they would also receive generous rewards and the promise of the goddess Shi-chun. The promise of the goddess Shi-chun undoubtedly made the 20 people more eager to win. The onlookers knew that the next battle would be very intense and exciting. As the image in the air kept changing, for people from the Temple of Eternal Life appeared and stood in 4 directions. These 4 were all top experts. In the next battle, they would act at the right time to block the energy leakage. Yang Tian did not look at the constantly changing image in the air. He immediately noticed that among the 4 people from the Temple of Eternal Life, there was a bald old man. This man was Grandfather Hong. When Yang Tian looked at Grandfather Hong also looked at Yang Tian. He smiled at Yang Tian. In Yang Tian's eyes, Grandfather Hong looked like an enlightened monk. His smile seemed to have the effect of calming people's hearts. When Yang Tian saw his smile, he calmed down a lot. The little blue dragon had been tortured by Grandfather Hong for a long time, but it knew that Grandfather Hong was doing it for its own good. He even gave it so many precious leaves to eat. Seeing Grandfather Hong again, the little blue dragon's eyes were filled with excitement. Grandfather Hong shifted his gaze and looked at the little blue dragon lying on Yang Tian's shoulder. He nodded at the little blue dragon. After greeting Yang Tian and the little blue dragon with expressions and eyes, Grand Duke Hong slightly lowered his head. At this moment, the results of the random selection were out. The first battle was between Yale of the Superstar God Temple and Bei Hong of the Eternal Life Temple. The name Bei Hong was very common in this universe. Yang Tian felt as if he had heard of this name before. The 2 of them were both Superstar Warrior level cultivators. When Yale saw that he was the first to enter the arena, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he put on his helmet, stood up, and strode into the arena. While marching, Yale took out his weapon. Bei Hong of the Eternal Life Temple looked very young. He had short red hair and was wearing silver-white armor. While marching, he also put on his helmet and took out a large saber that was nearly 2.5 meters long. This saber looked even heavier than the spear in Yale's hand. This was a coincidence. The 2 people fighting were both using heavy long weapons. When the 2 of them were about 100 meters away from each other, they stopped at the same time. Since they already knew each other's names and realms, there was no need to report their names and realms. After the 2 of them stopped, they silently looked at each other. During this process, their auras strengthened at an extremely fast speed. In the end, they strengthened to the peak of the Superstar Warrior level. This was a battle of life and death. It was not an ordinary spar. Therefore, at the beginning of the battle, they had to unleash their strongest power and try their best to kill each other in one blow. In this kind of gambling fight, it was rare to see a battle where the victor could not be determined after a long time. Yale and Bei Hong looked at each other quietly, a thick killing intent gradually appearing in their eyes. The 2 of them stood still for about 3 minutes. Suddenly they moved. It looked like they moved at the same time, but in fact, it was Bei Hong who moved first. Yale was a moment behind. The 2 figures moved and collided with each other in an instant. Pung! Yale's large spear slammed towards Bei Hong, but it missed. The large spear slammed into the ground. It was like a bomb that landed on the mountain peak and instantly detonated. The powerful force seeped into the ground in an instant, creating a thunderous sound. The entire mountain peak also trembled. If it were not for Grandfather Hong and the other 3 experts who used their powerful force to suppress it, the upper half of the mountain peak would probably have been shattered by Yale's spear. This was the power of a Superstar Realm cultivator. They already had the ability to destroy a mountain peak in an instant. In just 2 days, without the help of a talisman expert, it was impossible to set up a talisman array with powerful defensive power to protect this mountain peak. With a loud sound, a cloud of grayish-black sand soared into the sky. Bei Hong's silver-white figure rushed out of the sand and suddenly stopped steadily. Even though no one could see Yale, who was covered by the sand and dust, they knew that he had already lost. This was because Yale's life force was weakening at an extremely fast speed. A gust of wind blew past, and the sand and dust flew to the side. Yale's corpse was revealed. At this time, it could be seen that Yale's head had already been separated from his body. Within a range of dozens of meters around his corpse, the originally hard rock ground had already been shaken into powder and sunk several meters. The first round, Beihong of the Temple of Eternal Life won. In just a few seconds, the outcome of the battle was decided. This was a betting battle. In the betting market, this battle was considered a dark horse. This was because Beihong's odds of winning were 1-2-1, while Yale's odds of winning were 1-2. Although there was only a difference of 0-1, most people chose Yale to win. This was because both of them were superstar warrior-level cultivators who had undergone transformation. If they really fought, the result would be unpredictable. As soon as the result of this battle came out, Beihong of the Taichu couldn't help but laugh. The Taichu family had a share in the betting market, and the Taichu family had also bet on Beihong's victory. These large families had detailed information about the 20 cultivators participating in the betting battle. Yale was very powerful, much stronger than Beihong, but his speed was not as fast as Beihong. If he fought with Beihong, he would seem a little clumsy. In that case, Beihong's chances of winning would be much higher. After analysis, the betting market deliberately reversed the odds. At the same time, they also sent people to spread some analysis conclusions that were contrary to the odds. No one would pay attention to the losers, although both of them were transformed and had the same power in their bodies. But in the end, the dead Yale's body also melted very quickly. The two superstar Divine Temple soldiers who collected Yale's corpse only picked up Yale's armor and returned. His corpse could be considered to have merged with this place. This was only the first battle, and there were still 9 more. In other words, there were 9 more people who had the same ending as Yale. Chapter 5:27. With Yale's death, except for Beihong who had already won, the 18 people who were going to participate in the battle, including Yang Tian, couldn't help but become even more nervous. The victorious Beihong received a reward, and that was he could ask goddess Shi Chun to help him fulfill a wish. Of course, such a thing had to be mentioned immediately. Otherwise, what if the goddess forgot about it after this gambling battle ended? After the middle area was cleared, Beihong immediately walked to the front of goddess Shi Chun and bowed. Goddess Shi Chun naturally knew Beihong's purpose and said indifferently, "Speak." In front of everyone, Beihong, who was a superstar warrior, actually hesitated for a moment before lowering his head and saying, "I want to leave the Temple of Eternal Life and return to my hometown to live a stable life." Goddess Shi Chun didn't hesitate and said indifferently, "Okay. Thank you, goddess." After receiving goddess Shi Chun's reply, Beihong was very happy. After bowing to goddess Shi Chun again, he immediately turned and left the top of the mountain. After winning, he actually made such a request to goddess Shi Chun. Many people were puzzled, thinking that Beihong didn't want a large number of beast cores or other things. He was really too stupid. However, only a few people understood that Beihong knew that the battle between the two temples would be even more intense. If he didn't leave, a cultivator like him, whose realm was neither high nor low, would sooner or later be destroyed by the torrent of war. Since that was the case, he might as well go home and hide for a while until the universe regained its peace. After Beihong left, the second round of random drawing began. The results came out very quickly. The second round was between Superstar Divine Temple's Misigu and Eternal Life Temple's Bonai. Both of them were superstar warriors. Both of them were very young and were also cultivators who had undergone transformation. Standing behind Yang Tian, Zhu Yangshi, who had been silent all this time, suddenly asked, "Brother Yang Tian, who do you think will win?" At this time, Misigu and Benai had already walked to the center of the field and were about to fight. "You bet on this round?" Yang Tian asked. Zhu Liangshi nodded. "I bet on Misigu. His odds are 1-9, while Benai's odds are 1-2. After Zhu Yang's city finished speaking, Yang Tian carefully sized up the two of them. Judging from the energy aura they exuded, Miseguo was indeed stronger, and his energy aura was very stable. But sometimes, strength wasn't enough to win. For example, auxiliary equipment. Even without the reminder of the strange program, Yang Tian could see that there was something wrong with the silver-white armor Bonai was wearing. Yang Tian wasn't the only one who noticed it. Many of the people present also noticed that the silver-white armor on Bonai's body had been modified. It was originally a brand new set of armor, but now it looked a little old and full of messy scratches. Those weren't scratches at all. They were energy lines made of runes, and some runes had been added to them. Don't think about the match you bet on. Misegu will lose, Yang Tian said calmly. Yang Tian couldn't help but think of the experience in the space of shattered bubbles. The modified armor on his body was simply a moving defensive fortress. Cultivators of the same level couldn't break through his defense. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Zhu Liangshi sighed helplessly. Yang Tian glanced at the people from the large families on both sides and saw the confident looks on the old men's faces. It seemed that they had known about this for a long time. This kind of battle was either a win or a loss. There were no ties. For the bettors, the difficulty was very low. Even if they randomly bet on a match, there was more than a 50% chance of winning. If that was the case, how could the large families who opened the gambling house make any profit? They could only think of ways to interfere with the results and let the outcome develop according to their wishes. Thinking of this, Yang Tian couldn't help but think that in the battle between him and the 10 Star Guards later, something unexpected would probably happen. He had bet 25 trillion star crystals on himself. These people would definitely think of ways to let the 10 Star Guards win. What ways would they use? While Yang Tian was thinking, in the field, Misegu and Bonai had already made their moves. Misegu was wearing black armor and wielded a large saber. Bonai's weapon was about 3 meters long and looked like a trident. The outcome of the battle between the two of them was quickly decided. The moment they met, Misegu slashed at Bonai's head with his saber. His speed was very fast. As for Bonai, it was obvious that he deliberately slowed down for a moment. When Misegu slashed at Bonai's shoulder, he was a little proud of himself. However, he soon discovered that his opponent's weapon had already pierced his chest. Bonai made use of the powerful defensive ability of his armor to fight Misegu in a suicidal manner. Bang! Chi! Bang! In the short process, 3 sounds were heard in succession. Misegu, who was stabbed in the chest, didn't die immediately. However, the weapon that pierced his body surged with powerful energy, causing his entire body to feel numb. Bonai seized this opportunity. After pulling out his weapon, he smashed Misegu's head in one blow. There were a total of 10 wager battles, and the Superstar Divinity Temple had lost 2. Hung Dun's expression was very unsightly. However, this couldn't be helped. Not only was the Temple of Eternal Life prepared, but those unscrupulous profiteers had also tampered with it. As the Guardian General of the Superstar Divinity Temple, Hung Dun naturally had his channels to know some things that others didn't know. For example, the armor on Bonai's body was modified by a talisman expert of the Temple of Eternal Life. The Superstar Divinity Temple naturally had talisman experts like Great Priest Taiyu. However, due to special reasons, Great Priest Taiyu couldn't come here. Next, Hung Dun could imagine that the Temple of Eternal Life would have more ways to win. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have arranged for Yang Tian like that. That way, at least they would have won one battle and not lost too badly. Bonai, who won, didn't ask to leave like Bei Hong did. He asked for a blue-robed maid from goddess Shichun. After obtaining the maid's consent, Bonai got his wish and hugged the beauty. It seemed that the two had been hooking up for a long time. Next, it was time for the third battle. The first 2 battles were of lower realms and weren't exciting. According to the odds, the third battle should be a battle between experts, right? The results came out very quickly. The third battle was between Chias and a person for the Temple of Eternal Life called Fiji. This was really strange. It was another battle between superstar warrior level experts. Moreover, Chias was also Hung Dun's close subordinate. Don't be fooled by Chia's imposing manner in front of Yang Tian. forcing Yang Tian to exchange beast cores for an ownerless storage bracelet. When she heard that it was her turn, her body couldn't help but tremble. This was a sign of fear. On the betting table, the odds of her winning were as high as 1, 2, 5, while Fiji's was only 1. 1. Everyone thought that Fiji would win. The truth was so. Although they were of the same realm, Fiji was much stronger than she is. Moreover, Fiji had a huge psychological advantage at this time. On the other hand, Yang Tian could help Chia's, and he was also able to do so. Yang Tian had a spare set of black armor in his storage bracelet. If he gave it to Chia's, her chances of winning would be much higher. However, Yang Tian didn't want to do that because he didn't like this woman at all. A few minutes later, the results came out. Chia's died, Fiji won. The winner, Fiji, asked for a weapon from Goddess Shichun. Goddess Shichun agreed without hesitation. Next, it was time for the fourth battle. They had lost 3 battles in a row. If they lost again, it was certain that Hung Dun would have to leave 9 Barbarian Star Zone with his people. 3 battles had passed. During the random selection process, Yang Tian became nervous. The closer it was to the end, the more likely it was for him to fight. Soon, the results came out. Superstar Temples Wei Yu Jiao versus Temple of Eternal Life's Taiyu Xingxing. Taiyu Xingxing was obviously from the Taiyu family. This was a battle between the strongest superstar realm cultivators. When the results came out, everyone was on high alert. Wei Yu Jiao was a very beautiful woman. She was also a cultivator who had undergone transformation. She had long dark red hair. In fact, apart from Yang Tian, all 20 participants were cultivators who had undergone transformation. It was as if traditional cultivators weren't favored. After the results came out, Wei Yu Jiao stood up from her chair and was about to enter the arena. Taiyu Xingxing also walked out from the Temple of Eternal Life side. Taiyu Xingxing wore blue armor and had long dark red hair. He looked very handsome. Many people thought that the battle between the two was a duel between a beautiful woman and a handsome man. They wondered if they would go easy on the woman during the battle. That was obviously impossible. Absolute Beginning Black Star walked towards the center of the field with a cold smile on his face. He seemed very confident. In the betting market, Wei Yu Jiao's odds were 2 points lower than Taiyu Xingxing's. It was 1-1-8, while Taiyu Xingxing's odds were 1-2. Clearly, they all thought that Wei Yu Jiao would win. Yang Tian felt a sense of disgust when he saw Taiyu Xingxing. It was probably because Taiyu Xingxing and Taiyu Xingxing looked similar. When Taiyu Xingxing had caused great damage to the little blue dragon, Yang Tian had been so angry that he was about to go crazy. Even after killing Taiyu Xingxing, Yang Tian still felt very displeased when he saw Taiyu Xingxing, who looked similar to Taiyu Xingxing. The reason why Absolute Beginning Black Star was so confident wasn't because his blue armor had been modified and its defense was abnormal. Instead, it was because Alpha Primordium Black Star was holding a black saber that was covered in runes. The black saber emitted waves of destructive rune energy. Of course, this was because the strange program had alerted Yang Tian. Ordinary people could sense the rune energy, but they couldn't determine its attribute. Wei Yu Jiao, on the other hand, used 2 sabers and wore red armor. Whether it was her weapon or her armor, Wei Yu Jiao couldn't compare to Taiyu Xingxing's equipment. Yang Tian glanced at the people from the Taiyu Xingxing side. They all had faint smiles in their eyes. Only Taiyu Xingxing was expressionless. It was obvious that Taiyu Xingxing wasn't happy with using weapons to win. Chapter 528. If Absolute Beginning Black Star didn't use such a weapon, then according to his strength and majestic universe, Mu Jiao's strength, Absolute Beginning Black Star would be slightly inferior. Wait! Wei Yu Mu Jiao wasn't far from Yang Tian's seat. When she walked toward the center of the field, Yang Tian suddenly stood up and said. Hearing Yang Tian's voice, Wei Yu Mu Jiao stopped and turned to look at Yang Tian. Although Wei Yu Mu Jiao and Chia Si were both women, they were much calmer than Chia Si, who had just died. Your armor won't do. When Wei Yu Mu Jiao looked at him with a puzzled expression, Yang Tian lightly said, I can change it. As he spoke, Yang Tian took out a set of black armor that had runes modified and controlled by a strange program from his storage bracelet. This black armor was given to Yang Tian by Soli. It was Yang Tian's first modified armor, and it looked very old. Back then, Yang Tian had worn this armor and killed Alpha White Star in the pyramid. Although the folded black armor in Yang Tian's hand hadn't been unfolded, it was very old and didn't look very eye-catching. Now, it was time for Wei Mujiao to make a choice. She believed that Yang Tian would wear this armor and fight against absolute Primordium Black Star. She could also choose not to trust Yang Tian. Such a choice would obviously affect her fate. Wei Mujiao looked at the armor in Yang Tian's hand and then looked at Yang Tian's eyes. Yang Hongwu nodded with a smile and then removed the binding state of the armor. At this time, everyone's eyes turned to Yang Tian, trying to guess what was so special about Yang Tian's black armor. Even goddess Shi Chun was looking at Yang Tian. The current Yang Tian was already a superstar realm cultivator. How long had it been since he had reached this realm? His cultivation speed was really fast. It seemed that it was right to suggest Yang Tian to go to the Superstar Academy. It was worth mentioning that at that time, Shichen Yu already had the idea of forming the Eternal Temple. He let Yang Tian go to the Superstar Academy completely for the sake of Yang Tian. But now, it was different. Shichen Yu wanted to pull Yang Tian into the Eternal Life Temple. But she knew that this was impossible. The matter between Yang Tian and Qin Fei. Shichen Yu had long known the details from the immeasurable Star-Lord. With Qin Fei here, it was impossible for Yang Tian to leave the Superstar Divine Temple. It didn't matter. With Yang Tian's cultivation, he wouldn't be able to play a decisive role in her plan this time. Under everyone's gaze, Wei Mujiao finally chose to believe in Yang Tian. She walked in front of Yang Tian and took off the red armor on her body. Wei Mujiao was wearing extremely thin black clothes. As soon as she took off the armor on her body, her proud body was revealed. Many men looked at Wei Mujiao at this time and couldn't help but swallow their saliva. However, Wei Mujiao quickly put on the black armor that Yang Tian gave her, which disappointed everyone. Wei Mujiao's body wasn't much smaller than Yang Tian's body. After slight adjustments, the armor was very suitable. Thank you. After putting on the black armor, Wei Mujiao said indifferently. In fact, the reason why she changed into Yang Tian's armor was because her red armor was relatively ordinary. Changing a set of armor didn't affect her battle strength much. It wasn't impossible to change armor on the spot. Even if the people of the Taichu family were dissatisfied, they had no reason to stop Wei Mujiao. Bohong of the Taichu family had long noticed Yang Tian. If it wasn't for the family, from a personal point of view, Yang Tian was his enemy who killed his son. Including his son, the Taichu family had 3 people who died in Yang Tian's hands. If Yang Tian didn't have the protection of the Superstar Academy and later advanced to the Superstar Realm, the Taichu family would definitely do everything they could to kill Yang Tian. Pay attention to the saber in his hand. When Wei Mujiao put on her helmet and turned around, Yang Tian used his mental power to form a voice in Wei Mujiao's mind. After learning how to use mental power from High Priest Mei Chun, Yang Tian's control of mental power reached a new level. Yang Tian believed that no one here would know that he had used this method to inform Wei Yu of Mujiao's words. Yang Tian told Wei Mujiao that the saber in Black Star's hand had the ability to cut through space. For example, if one attacked an opponent with this saber and suddenly activated the space rune array on the saber could instantly cross the space of a short moment. In the eyes of the opponent, this saber was still a distance away from their body, and they could easily dodge it. However, it would suddenly disappear, and the next moment, it might have already cut into their body. Although this weapon was powerful, it had a weakness, which was that the material was not very good and was relatively brittle. Of course, Yang Tian knew this because the strange program told him. This kind of weapon was very difficult to make, and it was impossible to mass-produce it. However, once it was manufactured, it would have extremely strong destructive power, under the effect of spatial energy. As long as the space rune array on it was activated, it would have the ability to destroy almost all hard objects. Of course, this kind of cutting was not the kind of direct head-on collision. Instead, it used the special nature of spatial energy to embed the material of the saber into the colliding object. This was like a funny story Yang Tian had heard before. It was about a person who could pass through walls. When he was passing through walls, the spell suddenly stopped working and his body was stuck in the wall, unable to come out. Thus, he suffocated to death in the wall. The saber in Black Star's hand was actually like a person who could pass through walls. The person's body was very soft, but it could destroy the structure of the wall. This kind of weapon would also be destroyed after achieving its goal. It was equivalent to a single-use weapon. In order to defeat Wei Yu Mu Jiao, the Taichu family really put in a lot of effort, Yang Tian thought. This kind of weapon was impossible for the opponent to guard against, but once the opponent knew its characteristics, it was not very powerful. Hearing Yang Tian's explanation, Wei Yu Mu Jiao could not help but stop in her tracks. Her expression was very shocked. Fortunately, she had already put on a helmet, so no one could see her expression at this time. After being stunned for a moment, Wei Yu Mu Jiao walked into the field. Taichu Black Star had been waiting for a long time. Although he saw Wei Yu Mu Jiao change into the special black armor Yang Tian had given her, he still had a confident smile on his face. When Wei Yu Mu Jiao walked over, he put on the helmet calmly. Rumble! At this moment, the entire mountain trembled slightly and suddenly sank by a few meters. It turned out that the four experts had used their powerful strength to tamp down the mountain. A battle between superstar region lords was very destructive. A light blow could destroy the entire mountain. The battle that followed was something many people did not expect. After accumulating strength for a few minutes, Wei Yu Mu Jiao made the first move. The two of them were around 100 meters apart. When they moved, it was like they were teleporting. Seeing Wei Yu rush towards him, a cold smile appeared on Absolute Primordium's face under the Black Star mask. This was a good opportunity, a chance to kill Wei Yu Mu Jiao in one strike. Their speed was extremely fast in the eyes of others, but to those at the Superstar Region Lord Realm, it was like an ordinary human observing the speed of an ordinary human. As long as one's reaction speed could keep up, one would naturally be able to see things moving at high speed. When Wei Yu Mu Jiao was less than 20 meters away from him, Taichu Black Star pressed a button on the handle of his black saber. This was the switch for the saber's rune array. When pressed, the rune array would be activated. When released, the rune array would be extinguished. After sensing the rune array on the saber was activated, Taichu Black Star stabbed towards Wei Yu Mu Jiao. At the same time, the black saber in his hand vanished. As for Absolute Beginning Black Star, his body moved. In order to use this saber well, Taichu Black Star had practiced countless times. After activating the rune array on the black saber would instantly appear a few meters in front of him. Taichu Black Star's movement was to make Wei Yu Mu Jiao stop at the desired distance. This black saber was very strange. Once it hit its target, its destructive power would be shocking. Very few people had seen its power. Yang Tian had never seen such a weapon before. The reason he understood its characteristics was because the strange program had analyzed it for him. Since Wei Yu Mu Jiao knew the characteristics of Taichu Black Star's saber, she would naturally be prepared. During the attack, she had been paying attention to Taichu Black Star's right hand. When Taichu Black Star swung his saber, Wei Yu Mu Jiao was already prepared to dodge. At the same time, she was thinking about how to counterattack. However, she still underestimated the strange ability of this weapon. If it wasn't for Yang Tian's armor being too special, Wei Yu Mu Jiao would have lost. While Wei Yu Mu Jiao was dodging at high speed, the black saber still hit her black armor. Originally, the black saber could completely ignore the defense of the armor and directly appear on Wei Yu Mu Jiao's body, causing fatal damage to her body. However, Yang Tian's armor actually had spatial rune energy as well, and it had a repulsive reaction with the black saber's spatial rune energy. Puffed with a muffled sound, the black saber stabbed into Wei Yu Mu Jiao's chest. At this time, it could be seen that the black saber seemed to have grown out of the black armor. It was very strange. The tip of the saber had only stabbed into Wei Yu Mu Jiao's body by a few centimeters. It would not cause any damage to Wei Yu Mu Jiao. At this time, Taichu Black Star had already appeared in front of Wei Yu Mu Jiao and was holding his saber. From the looks of it, it was as if Wei Yu Mu Jiao had taken the initiative to face Taichu Black Star's saber. Wei Yu Mu Jiao, whose body was not heavily injured, took the opportunity to lean to the side and used Taichu Black Star's strength to break the black saber. She then spun her body and passed by Taichu Black Star. Wei Yu Mu Jiao had already calculated this way of counterattacking. Her combat ability was already stronger than Taichu Black Star's. When Wei Yu Mu Jiao and Taichu Black Star met and separated again, the victor had been decided. The victor was, of course, Wei Yu Mu Jiao. Wei Yu Mu Jiao also had her own special way of attacking. That was the extremely thin black thread that always existed on her wrist. When Wei Yu Mu Jiao passed by Taichu Black Star, she directly used this black thread made of an unknown material to cut off Taichu Black Star's neck. When the two separated, Taichu Black Star's helmeted head left his body and rolled to the ground. The headless body stopped for a moment and then stiffly fell to the ground. Wei Yu Mu Jiao did not let Taichu Black Star go. The black thread on her hand turned into a large black net and covered Taichu Black Star's body. With a pong sound, Taichu Black Star's body and the blue armor on his body were cut into countless pieces by this black net. This woman was really too ruthless. This was the strongest attack since the two of them started fighting. Only now did everyone realize that Wei Yu Mu Jiao's weapon was actually that unremarkable black thread on her wrist. No, don't. After Wei Yu Mu Jiao shattered Taichu Black Star's corpse, a middle-aged man from the Taichu family stood up and exclaimed in shock. This middle-aged man from the Taichu family was Taichu Black Star's father. This was originally a battle that they would definitely win, but who would have thought that it would turn out like this? This was clearly out of the Taichu family's control, and the one who changed the outcome of this battle was undoubtedly Yang Tian. If not for the armor that Yang Tian gave to Wei Yu Mu Jiao, Taichu Black Star would have succeeded. It must be known that although Wei Yu Mu Jiao was on guard, she was still unable to dodge that Black Blade's attack. The process of the battle did not seem as intense as everyone had imagined. During this process, the energy that erupted was not even comparable to the battle between Yi Er and Bei Hong. Chapter 529. This was the Superstar Divine Temple's first victory. After losing 3 matches in a row, they finally won one match. There were still 6 matches left. Although they won, there was no joy on Hung Dun's face, because this victory was actually caused by Yang Tian. For Hung Dun, this was very shameful. In fact, compared to traditional cultivators like Yang Tian, modified cultivators had a shortcoming that could not be ignored. That was, they did not have a rich family background. Traditional cultivators raised their realm step by step, and in the process, they would gradually accumulate wealth. Compared to traditional cultivators of the same realm, most of the modified cultivators were actually poor and pedantic. Although Taichu Black Star was killed by Wei Yu Mu Jiao, the Taichu family bore this grudge on Yang Tian's head. Because if it were not for Yang Tian, the winner would definitely be Taichu Black Star. Not only did they lose a family member, but the result this time also caused these large families to lose a lot of money. Taichu Bohong looked at the smiling face at this time, and his face was so gloomy that it seemed like water was about to drip out. However, under such circumstances, the Taichu family could only endure. Regarding the Superstar Divine Temple's victory, there was no strange expression on Shi Chen's face. To her, it was just an ordinary cultivator who died. It had to be said that Shi Chen Goddess also hated people like Taichu Black Star. Next, it was time for Wei Yu Mu Jiao to make a request of Shi Chen Goddess. However, Wei Yu Mu Jiao turned around and directly returned to her seat. When she passed by Yang Tian not far away, she said indifferently, "Thank you, Yang Tian." Yang Tian smiled and waved his hand. "You're welcome." Wei Yu Mu Jiao did not want to get benefits from Shi Chen Goddess, so the Eternal Temple was naturally more than happy to oblige. After all, the Eternal Temple and the Superstar Divine Temple still had a hostile relationship. After the center of the venue was cleaned up, next was the fifth match. The fifth match was a battle between Yixing on the Superstar Divine Temple side and a person called Yugo on the Eternal Temple side. Upon hearing that it was his turn, Yixing left his seat in fear and turned around to flee. Seeing this situation, many people laughed. This was the person that Hung Dun had chosen? Wasn't he too cowardly? Wasn't it just death? You'll die fighting, and you'll die trying to escape. Why not die with dignity? However, people who are terrified to the extreme do things irrationally. Yixing did not consider that escaping would only lead to a dead end. There was only one thought in his mind when he escaped from the mountain, and that was to escape and find a place to hide. Yixing quickly flashed to the foot of the mountain. Humph, whose cheeks were burning, raised his hand and pointed. A powerful energy burst out from Hung Dun's finger and blew Yixing's body to pieces. Naturally, the Eternal Temple had won the battle. Yixing escaped, and Yugo, who did not attack, helplessly walked back. Unlike the others, he didn't ask for anything from Goddess Shi-chun. He wasn't that thick-skinned. He had already lost 4 matches. There were still 5 matches left. In terms of strength, the Superstar God Temple's chances of winning were not high. However, the following battle surprised many people. The 6th battle was between Superstar God Temples Hu-He and Eternal Temples Jiayu. Both of them were Superstar King rank modified cultivators. In this battle, according to the odds, Jiayu had the greatest chance of winning. Judging from the energy fluctuations emitted from the two, Jiayu is also very powerful. However, Jiayu was killed by Hu-He in one move. Why did this happen? Because Hu-He used an extremely rare rune weapon. It was an umbrella-like rune weapon. Compared to the black blade used by Absolute Beginning Black Star, this rune weapon could be considered professional. In Yang Tian's view, it was actually a magic weapon. When Jiayu rushed towards him, Hu-He unhurriedly took out this rune weapon from his storage bracelet, which suddenly greatly reduced Jiayu's speed. Hu-He took advantage of this opportunity to cut off Jiayu's head with one slash. The process of the battle was extremely easy for Hu-He. Only then did Yang Tian understand why Hu-He was so relaxed. It turned out that he had a secret weapon. It was likely that this was the first time Hu-He Jia used this kind of rune weapon in front of everyone. Otherwise, his odds of winning wouldn't be so high, reaching 1, 2, 5. For the large families who opened the betting table, this was obviously an unexpected win. Although they all maintained a calm appearance to give face to Goddess Shi-chun, they were probably laughing in their hearts. This was a huge profit for him. It was worth mentioning that the betting method was not only a single battle, but also a series of bets. It was like humans on Earth buying lottery tickets. Offensive weapons made using runes had actually appeared in this universe a long time ago. However, due to the decline of runes, it was extremely difficult to create rune weapons that were durable and had powerful attack power. It was like everyone could read and write the 2 numbers 1 and 0. However, to combine the 2 numbers together and write a binary program segment was not something an ordinary person could do. Rune weapons had almost become a legend in this universe. But now, it had finally appeared in front of everyone's eyes. To others, the congratulatory chariot was a rune weapon in the truest sense. It made them feel astonished and even shocked. However, for Yang Tian, a mysterious window had opened in front of him. With the existence of a strange program, as long as he collected enough rune information, it should not be difficult to create an ideal rune weapon, right? Previously, Yang Tian had been thinking about how his opponent, the 10 Star Guards, could have absolute confidence in winning. It seemed that it was definitely related to runes. For the 10 Star Guards and those large families who opened the betting table, the 10 Star Guards had to win. If the 10 Star Guards were defeated, these large families would suffer great losses. For Yang Tian, he would have enough funds to build a family fortress. In fact, this was Yang Tian's goal. As for failure, Yang Tian had never thought about it. Hu-He's request to Goddess Shi-chun was for his home planet to be autonomous. After Goddess Shi-chun considered it, she nodded and agreed. She did not expect that Hu-He would give up his personal interests for his home planet. In the 6 battles, the Superstar Divinity Temple had won 2 and lost 4. In the next 4 battles, they had to win at least 3. After the random selection, it was finally Yang Tian's turn in the 7th battle. Brother Yang, you must win. I have placed a heavy bet on you. When Yang Tian stood up, Zhu Liang clenched his fist and cheered for Yang Tian. Yang Tian patted Zhu Liang's shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I will definitely win." Chapter 530. When Yang Tian walked into the arena, the 10-star guard also walked out from the Temple of Eternal Life side. The 10-star guard originally had light red short hair, but because of the transformation, it had turned dark red. His realm had risen from stellar-level Star King to super-level Star King, which was a big jump. The 10-star guard's silver-white armor was the same as the armor worn by the other Temple of Eternal Life soldiers. As for his weapon, he came to the arena with a helmet, so he didn't have a weapon in his hand. As Yang Tian walked, the little blue dragon flew into the air and circled a few times in the air. Soon, it turned into a 30-meter-long dragon and landed beside Yang Tian. At the same time, the little blue dragon's huge body emitted an aura as powerful as a super-level Star Warrior. It had to be said that the little blue dragon's current appearance was very domineering, which stunned many people. In this battle, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon would face the super-level Star Guard together. The odds of Yang Tian winning was 1, 2, and the odds of the 10 Star Guards winning was 1, 5. Most people had bet on the 10 Star Guard winning. If Yang Tian won in the end, it should be an upset, and the big families who started the bet should be happy. However, Yang Tian had bet 25 trillion on himself to win. For the families who started the bet, this was a huge sum of money. If Yang Tian won, they would have to pay 50 trillion, and they didn't know how many such bets they would need to win to earn back that amount. Therefore, these big families couldn't allow Yang Tian to win. Otherwise, they would suffer a huge loss. The two stood about 100 meters apart. The 10-star guard glanced at the little blue dragon, who was staring at him coldly, and then said to Yang Tian with a smile, "Yang Tian, long time no see." Yang Tian sneered and said, "Cut the crap. Let's start. I still have things to do after this. I've been trapped here for days. It's like being locked in a cage." Yang Tian said this to express his dissatisfaction with Hung Dun. When Hung Dun heard this, his face turned gloomy. "All right, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." The 10-star guard nodded with a smile. After saying that, the 10-star guard threw the helmet in his hand to the side. This meant that he would not need the protection of the helmet in the following battle. Yang Tian put the helmet on his head. Because the runes of the entire armor were 1, the defensive power of the helmet would be even more powerful. Facing the current 10-star guards, Yang Tian wouldn't be careless. Until now, Yang Tian still didn't know what method the 10-star guards had to ensure victory. Previously, Yang Tian had already thought that the 10-star guard sure-kill technique was very likely related to runes. Other than that, there shouldn't be anything else that could rapidly increase a cultivator's battle prowess. The strange program had already begun to pay close attention to the 10 Star Guard bodies to see if there were any rune energy fluctuations. Once the rune energy was produced, the strange program would quickly determine what kind of rune array it was. For example, a space rune array, a time rune array. The little blue dragon was the first to be unable to hold back. It lightly leaped into the air dozens of meters high and slapped down with its tail. The strength of the 10 Star Guards caused the little blue dragon to have a strong desire to fight. Yang Tian immediately retreated and took out a red longsword from his storage bracelet. Boom! The dragon's tail slammed onto the mountain peak, creating a loud sound. Sand and stones flew everywhere, and the entire mountain peak shook. Although the little blue dragon's attack was fast, it didn't hit the 10 Star Guards. Yang Tian, who was holding the sword, had already calmed down. There was no fear or nervousness in his heart. When the little blue dragon attacked the 10 Star Guards, he began to move at high speed. His figure kept on flashing. Bang! Suddenly, there was the sound of a collision. The 10 Star Guards suddenly appeared in front of Yang Tian and punched Yang Tian in the chest. Yang Tian's combat power was already equivalent to the peak of the Superstar Warrior level. In fact, the 10 Star Guards were only one level higher than him. However, the 10 Star Guard speed was simply too fast. Yang Tian, who was moving at high speed, was actually hit by the energy released by the 10 Star Guards. During this process, even with Yang Tian's reaction speed, he could only catch a glimpse of the 10 Star Guard's silver-white, blurry figure. The power of the attack was within the range that Yang Tian could withstand. It was easily neutralized by his blue armor. However, Yang Tian still quickly retreated a large distance. Just as he punched Yang Tian back, the 10 Star Guards suddenly appeared in the air above the little blue dragon. Boom! The little blue dragon didn't have time to dodge, and the 10 Star Guard's fist force bombarded its back. Pushed by this powerful force, the little blue dragon couldn't control its body, and its huge body fell heavily to the ground. At this time, Yang Tian stopped. The little blue dragon wasn't injured. It immediately got up from the ground and let out a low and angry howl at the 10 Star Guards who stopped in the air. The 10 Star Guard speed was simply too fast. It was unbelievably fast. At this time, the strange program's voice sounded in Yang Tian's mind. There is the energy of a space talisman array on his body. Calculating. Sure enough, there was a talisman array on the 10 Star Guard's body that made use of the talisman array's energy. Otherwise, it was impossible for his speed to be so fast. The 10 Star Guard speed was at least twice as fast as Yang Tian's and 1/3 of the little blue dragon's speed. However, his attack power was obviously not strong enough. Otherwise, with his speed and powerful strength, he could kill Yang Tian in one blow. After knocking the little blue dragon to the ground, the 10 Star Guards landed on the ground and didn't attack again. Instead, he looked at Yang Tian and said with a smile, "Yang Tian, you'll definitely lose today because you're too slow." Before he finished speaking, the 10 Star Guards suddenly disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Yang Tian again. It was impossible for Yang Tian to not be prepared for the 10 Star Guards' abnormal speed. He had already used his mental power to envelop the surrounding dozens of meters around his body. He couldn't detect the 10 Star Guards' movements in advance with his vision and sensing the flow of air, but his mental power could. This time, the 10 Star Guards who appeared in front of Yang Tian had a silver-white short knife that was about 2 feet long in his hand. This knife was very similar to the embroidered spring knife used by Zhu Wei. With extreme speed, the 10 Star Guards slashed at Yang Tian's neck with the knife. This was the weakness of Yang Tian's armor. Yang Tian, who was already prepared, stomped his feet on the ground the moment the 10 Star Guards appeared and took a few steps back. The 10 Star Guard's knife missed. Although he dodged the knife, the 10 Star Guard sped up again and appeared behind Yang Tian, slashing at Yang Tian's neck again. Yang Tian didn't have time to dodge, so he put the knife in his hand behind his back. Bang! A violent collision sound was heard, and Yang Tian was sent flying with his knife. His body crawled forward. While Yang Tian was in the air, he twisted his waist and flew to the side, trying to dodge the 10 Star Guard's third attack. However, the 10 Star Guard strangely appeared above Yang Tian and stepped on Yang Tian's head. Boom! Another loud sound was heard. It wasn't that the 10 Star Guard stepped on Yang Tian's head, but that the little blue dragon sent the 10 Star Guards flying with claw. While the 10 Star Guard's body was flying rapidly in the air, he suddenly disappeared and reappeared below the little blue dragon's huge head. He stabbed at the little blue dragon's neck with his knife. With a poof, the knife in the 10 Star Guard's hand collided with the little blue dragon's protective power and made a muffled sound. The dragon whiskers at the corner of Little Blue's mouth curled and made an ear-piercing whistling sound as it swept toward the 10 Star Guards. However, the 10 Star Guards disappeared again. In these few seconds, the 10 Star Guards launched several attacks at Yang Tian and the Little Blue Dragon. Yang Tian and the Little Blue Dragon could only be in a passive state because the 10 Star Guard speed was too fast. Seeing this situation, Taichu Bohong and the others couldn't help but laugh. In order to let the 10-star guards have the confidence to win, they paid a heavy price and asked for a rune treasure from the Jishu family that had been passed down since ancient times. This treasure was the same as the rune treasure used by the summons. It was a type of auxiliary treasure used in battle. The one used by the summons could slow down the opponent's speed. As for the talisman treasure used by the 10-star guard, it could at least double his speed. In battle, speed was the most important thing. As long as one was fast enough, no matter how powerful the opponent was, they wouldn't be able to use it. And those who were fast could calmly use their attacks. What made Taichu Bohong dissatisfied was that the 10-star guard's power wasn't strong enough. Otherwise, they would have finished the battle long ago. This was also the longest battle since the beginning of the wager battle. The first few battles were decided almost instantly. However, there was nothing they could do even if they were dissatisfied. The 10-star guards had to win. Even if they lost all the other 9 battles, they had to win this one. After dodging the little blue dragon's dragon whiskers, the 10-star guards suddenly appeared about 30 meters away from Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. At this moment, the 10-star guards had the thought of running away. It wasn't that he felt that he couldn't win against Yang Tian. On the contrary, he had full confidence in defeating Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. The reason he had this thought was because the rune treasure he carried was really too powerful. Now, he was only at the Superstar King level. If he increased his level to the Great Star Lord level, he believed that even the Great Star God wouldn't be able to do anything to him with this rune treasure. Wouldn't that make him invincible in the universe? However, this rune treasure would have to be returned after this battle. Seeing that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were once again prepared for battle, the 10-star guards forcibly suppressed the greedy thoughts in his mind. This was because he knew that it wasn't time to leave this place yet. Perhaps this thought was completely wrong. Those people might have been on guard against him from the start. Although he was thinking about how to take the rune treasure for himself, the 10-star guards didn't show it on his face. Yang Tian, do you understand now? You can't be faster than me. No matter how strong your power is, you can't attack me. Actually, my speed can be increased a little more. Looking at Yang Tian, the 10-star guard smiled and said. At the same time, the strange program's voice sounded in Yang Tian's mind. The rune energy on his body can shorten the space in which he moves by 2 to 3 times. Therefore, in the eyes of others, his speed will be very fast. The process of humans walking and running was actually the process of crossing space. The rune treasure shortened the space in which the 10-star guards moved, which was equivalent to increasing his speed. Is there a way to break it? Yang Tian asked in his mind. The strange program said, you can only use rune energy to break the rune energy. This is very simple. I have already calculated the method to break it. However, it will take 2 to 3 seconds. Chapter 531. With the help of the strange program, it was not difficult to kill the 10-star guard. However, it was not easy to not be noticed and disturbed by the 10-star guard in the last 2 or 3 seconds. It must be known that the entire series of battles just now had only been experienced for a few short seconds. For ordinary humans, a few seconds was extremely short, but for a superstar realm cultivator, this kind of battle process was extremely long. Yang Tian quickly thought for a while and immediately said to the little blue dragon, Xiaolong, hold him back. Yang Tian used Chinese. When the 10-star guard heard it, he felt strange because he did not know what Yang Tian said to the little blue dragon. Roar! The little blue dragon let out a low howl, and then its huge figure flashed and rushed toward the 10-star guard. During this process, the little blue dragon used its tail to slap the ground. Boom! There was a loud noise. A large amount of sand and stones on the mountaintop were stirred up and scattered in the air. With the cover of this sand and dust, Yang Tian's figure in the field became blurred. When the sand and dust rose, Yang Tian could not help but sigh at the little blue dragon's intelligence. It was actually able to come up with this idea. The little blue dragon and Yang Tian's minds were connected, so it naturally understood that Yang Tian needed time to decipher the things on the 10-star guard. As the sand and dust rose and the little blue dragon rushed over, the cunning 10-star guard's figure moved and once again appeared in front of Yang Tian. To him, Yang Tian was the most important enemy. As long as he killed Yang Tian, this battle would be considered over. As for the little blue dragon, it was only Yang Tian's pet beast. As long as its master died, it would definitely give up on fighting. This was the thought in the 10-star guard's mind. Appearing in front of Yang Tian, the 10-star guard once again slashed at Yang Tian's neck with his sword. Yang Tian narrowed his eyes slightly, and a powerful spiritual power burst out and condensed on the 10-star guard's body. He wanted to delay the 10-star guard's movements. At the same time, Yang Tian also quickly dodged to the side. He could not guarantee that his spiritual power would have any effect on the 10-star guard. As expected, bang, there was a muffled sound, and the 10-star guard sword slashed at Yang Tian's shoulder and violently collided with the protective energy of the armor. If Yang Tian had not leaned to the side, his neck would have been cut by the 10-star guard. The neck was the weakest part of the armor. If Yang Tian's neck, Yang Star Guard, Yang Tian's neck. During this process, Yang Tian was surprised to find that once his spiritual power got close to the 10-star guard's body, a large amount of it was sucked away as if it had entered a bottomless pit. If this situation were to be compared, Yang Tian's spiritual power would be like water, and the 10-star guard would be like a slippery loach. Needless to say, this was the effect of the 10-star guard's runic treasure. A long time ago, in the era of the universe, there were also many spiritual power cultivators. The talisman expert who created the runic treasure must have considered spiritual power. Yang Tian was sent flying again. This time, the 10-star guard power was stronger. Although he still could not break through Yang Tian's armor's defense, the sword in his hand was infinitely close to Yang Tian's armor. If he slashed a few more times, he might be able to destroy Yang Tian's armor. The reason why Yang Tian was not injured until now was also because this set of blue armor played a key role. In fact, this set of blue armor on Yang Tian's body, after being slightly modified by a strange program, was equivalent to a low-level runic treasure. Several attacks did not hurt Yang Tian, and it also made the 10-star guard notice the blue armor on Yang Tian's body. After being sent flying by the 10-star guard sword, Yang Tian's figure flashed and escaped into the sand and dust stirred up by the little blue dragon. Boom! At this moment, the 10-star guard wanted to move and chase after Yang Tian, but he did not expect that a high-temperature blue flame would suddenly rush down from above his head. The 10-star guard had a deep impression of the little blue dragon's high-temperature dragon flame. The runic treasure he carried with him did not have the ability to avoid fire. In the face of the dragon flame, the 10-star guard could only dodge. His figure moved, and he flashed a distance of dozens of meters away, far away from the high-temperature dragon flame. Crack, boom, immediately after, a thick bolt of lightning struck down. The speed of the electric current was very fast, and the 10-star guard hurriedly dodged again. After being attacked by the little blue dragon twice in a row, and remembering how he was sent flying by the little blue dragon before, the 10-star guard could not help but become angry. Bang! After the 10-star guard dodged the electric current that the little blue dragon bombarded him with, he stomped on the ground with his legs and rushed toward the little blue dragon in the sky. During this process, the 10-star guard's speed increased in a trapezoidal shape. In an instant, he was dozens of meters high in the sky, less than 3 meters away from the little blue dragon's abdomen. The little blue dragon also had spiritual power. Its speed was not as fast as the 10-star guard's, but it could detect the 10-star guard's movements. However, being able to detect it did not mean that he could dodge it. Uffed. Now that he was so close to the little blue dragon, the 10-star guard could not let go of this opportunity. He stabbed out with his sword, and the tip of the sword broke through the little blue dragon's defense. Half of the blade entered the little blue dragon's flesh. At the same time, a huge amount of power exploded from the blade. The cells of a modified cultivator's body were modified, and they possessed a strange energy that was extremely destructive. The 10-star guard wanted to use this energy in his body to destroy the little blue dragon's body. At this time, the 10-star guard had already changed his battle strategy. To him, Yang Tian was easier to deal with than the little blue dragon. It would not be too late to kill the little blue dragon first, and then kill Yang Tian. Otherwise, with the little blue dragon's harassment, he did not know when he would be able to kill Yang Tian. As long as Yang Tian did not die, those old fellows from the large families would not be able to completely relax. When the blade in the 10-star guard's hand emitted an extremely destructive energy, the little blue dragon originally wanted to shake its body and shake off the 10-star guard. However, if it did so, the 10-star guard might turn around and attack Yang Tian instead. Thus, the little blue dragon endured the intense pain, swung its tail, and flew straight up into the sky. During this process, the little blue dragon opened its mouth again and let out a painful roar. Actually, the destructive power of the energy in the 10-star guard's body could not compare to the force. But in order to stall for time, the little blue dragon could only temporarily give up. At this time, this round of battle had actually already passed by more than 2 seconds. Yang Tian could no longer remember how many times he had cooperated with the strange program. From the first time the strange program took control of his body, it needed several hours, but now it only needed a short 2 seconds. In 2 seconds, the strange program could perfectly control Yang Tian's body. In the 3rd second, Yang Tian's hands overlapped each other and turned into a series of afterimages. Rings of runic energy fluctuations were emitted from Yang Tian's hands. Very quickly, this kind of runic energy came into contact with the 10-star guard's body. The runic energy on the 10-star guard's body was simulated by the strange program and transmitted to Yang Tian. In Yang Tian's vision, the surface of the 10-star guard's body was covered with multicolored energy lines. These runic energy lines were the runic energy emitted by the 10-star guard's runic artifact. Chapter 532. The position and appearance of the 10-star guard's runic treasure also appeared in Yang Tian's mind. It was something similar to a storage bracelet, and it was worn by the 10-star guard on his right wrist. Making the runic treasure into such a shape was probably a form of protection. When the opponents saw it, they would think that it was a storage bracelet. The runic energy lines on the surface of the 10-star guard's body were extended from this runic treasure. Since it had been discovered by the strange program and appeared in Yang Tian's mind, the next step would be to crack it or suppress the functions of this rune treasure. It would not be a difficult task. In the sky, the little blue dragon suddenly swooped down. With a swing of its long body, it flung the 10-star guard away. During this process, the little blue dragon endured intense pain, and a large piece of its scales fell off. Due to the destruction of the tissue in the wound, the little blue dragon's wound could not heal in time. A large amount of bright red blood spurted out from the wound and sprinkled down like rain. After the 10-star guard was flung away by the little blue dragon, he smiled proudly and quickly landed on the ground. With a speed that surpassed that of Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, the 10-star guard was already fully confident of victory. Boom! Immediately after, the little blue dragon also landed on the ground. With a swing of its tail, it smashed into the ground, and the sand and dust that had been blown away by the air flow appeared again. After landing on the ground, the 10-star guard looked at Yang Tian's faintly discernible figure in the sand and immediately frowned. At this time, Yang Tian's hands were overlapping each other, and he was making all kinds of strange gestures. Although the 10-star guard was not familiar with runes, he knew that Yang Tian was using his hands to activate the runic energy. He could not let him continue like this. A warning sign suddenly appeared in the 10-star guard's heart. His intuition told him that if he did not stop Yang Tian, he would be in big trouble. Not only the 10-star guard, but the onlookers also noticed Yang Tian's strange behavior. An elder from the Shrine of Eternal Life frowned as well. This old man had long silver-white hair. He wore a black robe with a circle of silver-white runes embroidered on his sleeves. From his attire, one could tell that he was a cultivator who specialized in talisman Dao. Others might not be able to sense the rune energy emanating from Yang Tian's hands, but this old man could clearly sense it. Moreover, he knew that this energy was spatial rune energy. Although the old man had long since noticed this, he remained unmoved and did not warn the 10 star guards. At this moment, he took a few steps forward and arrived behind Goddess Shichun. His lips trembled slightly. At this moment, the 10 star guards finally reacted and rushed toward Yang Tian. However, when he was about 10 meters away from Yang Tian, his body suddenly became sluggish and his speed decreased greatly. What's going on? The 10 star guards were shocked. He did not intend to slow down his speed all of a sudden. In Yang Tian's mind, the strange program simulated the scene for Yang Tian. It showed that the rune energy emanating from Yang Tian's hands had formed dense filaments and stuck to the energy threads emitted by the rune artifact on the 10 star guard's body. The strange program told Yang Tian that the rune artifact could not be destroyed in this way. It could only temporarily cause it to lose the ability to break through the spatial barrier. In this way, the 10 star guards would not be able to use the rune artifact to increase their speed for a short period of time. In this kind of battle, even a moment of stagnation would give the opponent an opportunity to seize. Boom! The little blue dragon suddenly descended from the sky and slapped the 10 star guards into the ground with one claw. The strange program told Yang Tian that the confinement of the rune artifact on the 10 star guards could only last for 3 seconds. In other words, Yang Tian had to kill the 10 star guards in 3 seconds. Or, he could once again confine the rune artifact on the 10 star guards. The little blue dragon's attack was very timely. Yang Tian had just pulled out the saber from the ground when the 10 star guards broke out of the ground where Yang Tian had just been standing. Yang Tian narrowed his eyes slightly. Powerful spiritual power emanated from his body and enveloped the 10 star guards' body in the air. The 10 star guards who were in the air were suddenly bound by Yang Tian's spiritual power. It was as if they had fallen into a thick liquid, and it was difficult for them to move. The rune artifact could not be used. The 10 star guards felt as if they had dropped by 2 levels. They were extremely annoyed. After all, the 10 star guards were superstar kings. Even if they did not have a rune artifact, they were still stronger than Yang Tian. The 10 star guards struggled hard and broke free from the restraint of Yang Tian's spiritual power. At this moment, Yang Tian had already flashed in another direction and distanced himself from the 10 star guards. After the 10 star guards broke free from the restraint of his spiritual power, Yang Tian's origin realm shook, and he felt dizzy. He was too impatient. Yang Tian gritted his teeth and endured the discomfort. He thought to himself that the battle just now had made the 10 star guards misunderstand his strength. The 10 star guards, who had lost their speed, had also made him underestimate them. With Yang Tian's current level, it was still impossible for him to defeat a superstar kings. Although his mind was dizzy, Yang Tian still insisted on dodging to the side. Yang Tian dodged in time. He had just left his original spot when the 10 star guards appeared where he had just been standing. In the eyes of the cultivators who had not reached the superstar realm, the 10 star guards had slashed Yang Tian's shadow. Half of the 3 seconds had already passed. When the 10 star guard were about to attack Yang Tian again, his body suddenly froze again. Yang Tian was not the only one who possessed spiritual power. The little blue dragon also possessed powerful spiritual power. The 10 star guards were currently restrained by the little blue dragon's spiritual power. When the 10 star guard stopped, the little blue dragon took the opportunity to open its mouth and spit out a stream of high-temperature dragon flames at the 10 star guards. With a poof, the 10 star guards were surrounded by the dragon flames. He struggled to break free from the little blue dragon's spiritual power restraint and rushed out of the dragon flames. The sound that came from his body was the sound of his armor breaking. The little blue dragon's attacks were continuous. As soon as the 10 star guards rushed out of the dragon flames, a thick bolt of lightning bombarded his body. The little blue dragon was at the superstar warrior realm. In addition to its powerful physical body, its combat power was already equivalent to the superstar emperor realm. It was only slightly weaker than the 10 star guards' combat power. It was also not like Yang Tian, who was injured by the spiritual power backlash after the 10 Star Guards broke free from the spiritual power restraint. After being hit by the powerful electric current, the 10 Star Guard's body began to tremble. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the little blue dragon's 2 golden dragon whiskers curled around the 10 Star Guard's body. At this time, 3 seconds had already passed. Once the time was up, the 10 Star Guards once again possessed rapid speed. Sensing that the rune-treasured weapon on his wrist was working again, the 10 Star Guards used all of their strength to try to break free from the little blue dragon's dragon whiskers. As long as he could break free, he would be able to possess extreme speed again and would not give Yang Tian any more chances. However, the little blue dragon's 2 dragon whiskers were too tightly wound. He did not know what material they were made of, but he could not cut them open with a knife in his hand. At this time, Yang Tian once again stood still and folded his hands. Seeing Yang Tian's actions, the 10 Star Guards knew that if Yang Tian was given 2 or 3 seconds, he would be finished. The little blue dragon's attack just now had already injured his body. The 10 Star Guards, who used all of their strength to break free, opened their mouths and roared. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking could be heard. The little blue dragon's 2 dragon whiskers had been broken by the 10 Star Guards. The 10 Star Guards, who had regained their freedom, was about to flash again and rush toward Yang Tian. However, Yang Tian had already completed the process of releasing the rune energy. The 10 Star Guard body had just started to rapidly move, but his speed slowed down again. Boom! The little blue dragon seized this opportunity and slammed down with its claw again. The powerful force once again slammed the 10 Star Guards into the ground. At this time, Yang Tian's legs bounced, and he leaped into the air. When the little blue dragon moved its huge claw away from the ground, the 10 Star Guards, who were still in a daze, bounced up. At this time, Yang Tian was right above his head, descending from the sky. PFFF! Yang Tian's knife stabbed into the 10 Star Guard's head, all the way to the hilt. At this time, Yang Tian had a cold smile on his face. Powerful force poured into the knife without any care, and then it was released from the knife. PFFF! With a muffled sound, the bodies of Yang Tian and the 10 Star Guards sank into the ground. Seeing this situation, those who hoped for Yang Tian to win couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. As for those from the big families who hoped for Yang Tian to lose, they stood up in shock and looked at the position where Yang Tian and the 10 Star Guards had sunk into the ground. In the hearts of these people, they hoped for a miracle. However, everyone knew that the 10 Star Guards were dead meat. Who asked the 10 Star Guards not to wear helmets? Even if the armor system was damaged, with the helmet, the knife in Yang Tian's hand wouldn't be able to stab into the 10 Star Guard's head. 50 trillion. Brother Yang is going to be rich. The excited Zhu Liang sure couldn't help but laugh. At this time, the people from the big families realized that the one who bet on Yang Tian to win was actually Yang Tian himself. 50 trillion. In other words, Yang Tian had to bet 25 trillion. How could he have so much money? Seeing that many people were looking at him, Zhu Liangshi realized that he was too excited and quickly covered his mouth. However, it was already too late. After Yang Tian and the 10 Star Guards sunk into the ground, there was no movement for a long time. As long as the result wasn't out, many people's hearts would still be in suspense. Only those who were attentive would notice that the 10 Star Guards' life force was getting weaker and weaker. In the end, it disappeared. Obviously, the 10 Star Guards were dead. After a full 10 seconds, the sound of earth breaking could be heard. Yang Tian rushed out from the ground with the 10 Star Guards' corpse. Yang Tian, who rushed out from the ground, was covered in grayish-black sand. He was carrying the 10 Star Guards' tattered corpse in his hand. After glancing around, Yang Tian spat out the sand in his mouth. He squatted down and took off the 10 Star Guards' talisman treasure that looked like a storage bracelet from their right wrist. Before anyone could react, Yang Tian threw down the knife, grabbed the talisman treasure, and pulled with force. Crack! This talisman treasure, which was extremely valuable, was destroyed by Yang Tian just like that. Chapter 533. Yang Tian had won. When the battle had started, no one had expected that Yang Tian would defeat the 10 Star Guard in the end. It should be known that Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had been suppressed in the beginning. Even Zhu Liangshi was worried for Yang Tian. Although he couldn't see the details of the battle between Yang Tian and the 10 Star Guard, Yang Tian had been sent flying several times by the 10 Star Guard, and even the little blue dragon had been injured. Zhu Liangshi felt his heart rise to his throat every time such a situation occurred. Victory and defeat had been decided. After standing up, the people from the large clans fell back down powerlessly in the end. Yang Tian had won. Several large clans had joined forces, and each of them had to pay a compensation of several trillion star crystals. This was a large sum of money. Even if their clans were large, they would need several years to earn it back. It should be known that when a large clan was large, its expenses would also be enormous. The Jishu clan was the most heartbroken because the talisman treasure used by the 10 Star Guard had been provided by the Jishu clan. This talisman treasure had been given to Jishu Lan Lan by a cultivator, and it was one of the clan's treasures. Now, this talisman treasure had been destroyed just like that. One had to know that its value could not be measured by money. It could be said that the Jishu clan had suffered the most in this wagered battle. However, they couldn't blame Yang Tian. If someone else had been in Yang Tian's shoes, they would definitely have hated that talisman treasure to the core. Yang Tian had destroyed this talisman treasure because he knew that even if he took it, he wouldn't be able to get it in the end. The Eternal Life Temple, or those large clans that had provided this talisman treasure, would definitely think of a way to get it back. Wouldn't it be asking for trouble if he carried this item with him? Therefore, it was better to destroy it. It would be a waste. Of course, another reason was that he really hated this talisman treasure. If it hadn't been for the existence of the strange program, he would have been killed by the 10 Star Guard long ago. Yang Tian, on the other hand, did not care at all. He had a strange program to help him. As long as he collected enough runes, he could make any kind of rune weapon. If Yang Tian wins, he would be able to make a wish or request to Goddess Shichun. Under everyone's gaze, Yang Tian came before Goddess Shichun. If the Eternal Temple defeats the Superstar God Temple in the future, I want the Goddess of the Superstar God Temple to be safe. Also, you can't make things difficult for her. No one expected Yang Tian to make such a request. On the surface, Yang Tian's request meant that he was a loyal member of the Superstar Divine Temple. In reality, Yang Tian did not care about the Superstar Divine Palace at all. His request was entirely for Qin Fei's sake. Goddess Shichun thought for a moment and nodded. If that goddess doesn't make things difficult for our eternal temple, we will naturally let her go. Thank you. Although Goddess Shichun's reply sounded like she was implying something, Yang Tian still thanked her and returned to his seat. At this time, the little blue dragon also returned to its small figure and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. The little blue dragon had suffered heavy injuries and needed to replenish its energy. After Yang Tian sat down, he took out a blue Superstar Warrior Level B's core from his storage bracelet and placed it in the little blue dragon's mouth. At this time, Yang Tian was still being watched by everyone. Many people were shocked to see him take out a Superstar Level Beast core and feed it to the Star Beast. F***CK. That was too extravagant. He actually used a high-level beast core to feed his pet beast. This indirectly proved that Yang Tian was indeed a very rich cultivator. The next 3 battles were quickly decided. Although the cultivators fighting were of a higher realm than Yang Tian, the level of excitement was not as high as the battle between Yang Tian and the 10 Star Guard, which was full of ups and downs and made the audience feel very nervous. Of course, this was mainly because the amount of bets placed on the battle between Yang Tian and the 10 Star Guard was too high. Without exception, the Temple of Eternal Life won all 3 battles. There were a total of 10 battles, and the Superstar Divine Palace only won 3. After the results were out, Hung Dun left his high seat with a gloomy face and turned to leave. Next, it was time for the Superstar Divine Palace to retreat. In fact, if Hung Dun had treated Yang Tian well when he arrived, he would have discussed with Yang Tian before the battle. With the help of the strange program, Yang Tian might have been able to win this battle. In the following battles, the Superstar Divine Palace might even be able to turn the tables and regain control of the 9 Barbarian Star Zone. Yang Tian might have thought of this with confidence, but Hung Dun would not have thought of this even if he had grown an extra head. Yang Tian did not want to return to the temple immediately. He still had a lot of things to do. Yang Tian, thank you. I will return this favor to you in the future. After saying this to Yang Tian, Wei Mu Jiao took out a small red spaceship from her storage bracelet and drove it away from the Tsangman planet. Brother Yang, it's in the account. 50 trillion stellar crystals have been transferred. Since everyone knew that Yang Tian had bet a huge amount of money on his victory, Zhu Liangshi did not want to control his excitement and shouted loudly. Yang Tian did not blame Zhu Liangshi. After all, the big families would find out about this sooner or later. Yang Tian and Zhu Liangshi were the last 2 from the Superstar Divine Palace to leave the mountain peak. When they reached the foot of the mountain, the Superstar Divine Palace's fleet had already taken off and left the Tsangman planet's atmosphere. Yang Tian was about to release the Black Dragon spaceship and return to Planet Eclipse to start his next plan, when a black-robed old man suddenly appeared and blocked Yang Tian's path. This black-robed old man was from the Temple of Eternal Life. So, Yang Tian immediately raised his guard. Qin Fei was still in the Superstar Divine Palace, so Yang Tian did not want to have anything to do with the Temple of Eternal Life. The old man sized up Yang Tian and suddenly smiled. He raised his hand and a powerful force wrapped around Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. Behind them, then, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's vision were filled with colorful lights. They felt like they had been sucked into a whirlpool and were being swept by a powerful force. They could not control their bodies. This old man was clearly an expert, at least a peak Star Lord. Fortunately, this process did not last long. When Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's vision recovered, they found themselves in space. Yang Tian did not wear a helmet, but he was a superstar realm cultivator and could survive in space for a long time. When his vision cleared, Yang Tian's eyes widened. This was because Goddess Shi Chun, who had left before him, was standing in front of him. Behind Goddess Shi Chun was the black-robed old man that Yang Tian had just seen. This black-robed old man was clearly a talisman expert. He had just used spatial rune energy, and the strange program had also indicated in Yang Tian's mind. Yang Tian, join the Eternal Temple. I will give you the position of Chief Divine General. Yang Tian was just about to ask when Goddess Shi Chen's voice sounded in his mind. Join the Eternal Temple? Chief Divine General? Yang Tian was even more surprised. Goddess Shi Chen looked at Yang Tian and said with a smile, although you are also a Chief Divine General in the Superstar Divine Temple, you have no real power at all. You are not even as good as a guard captain. As long as you are willing to become the Chief Divine General of the Eternal Temple, several star fields of the Eternal Temple will be under your command. You will have hundreds of millions of Eternal Temple soldiers under your command. Goddess Shi Chun used emotional words to describe the spectacular scene for Yang Tian. However, Yang Tian shook his head without thinking and said with a smile, I will not join the Eternal Temple. Thank you for your kindness. Goddess Shi Chun was not surprised by Yang Tian's rejection. She also did not feel that she had wasted her breath. She knew the relationship between Yang Tian and Qin Fei. If Yang Tian had agreed so easily, Goddess Shi Chun would have been surprised. If you don't join the Eternal Temple, you will die. What is your choice? At this time, the old man behind Goddess Shi Chun asked with a smile. Yang Tian also did not think and replied, Of course I choose to join the Eternal Temple. However, do you think this is interesting? Not interesting. However, your presence in the Superstar Divinity Hall is a great threat to the Eternal Temple. Goddess Shi Chun said faintly. When Goddess Shi Chun said this, Yang Tian became a little nervous and hurriedly shook his head. Impossible, because the Superstar Divine Temple does not value me at all. After saying this, Yang Tian knew that it was useless to say this and asked again, How do you plan to deal with me? It was obvious that goddess Shi-chan would not let Yang Tian go. Otherwise, she would not have come to see Yang Tian in person. When Yang Tian asked this question, goddess Shi-chan said indifferently, "You are a rare talent in the Tao of Talismans. This sovereign has found an excellent task for you to do. If you complete it, not only will you obtain great benefits, the cultivators of the entire universe will also thank you." Hearing goddess Shi-chen's words, Yang Tian became curious and asked with wide eyes, "What is it?" Goddess Shi-chen said, "You will naturally understand when the time comes. This sovereign guarantees you that I will not make things difficult for the goddess of the superstar divine temple." "Can I refuse?" Yang Tian asked with a smile. He hated this kind of force thing the most. "This is not up to you." Goddess Shi-chen said indifferently, "Don't think that this sovereign can't kill you just because she values you." After saying this, goddess Shi-chen turned her head and nodded at the black-robed old man who brought Yang Tian here. Wait a moment. Yang Tian knew that the black-robed old man was about to take him away. With his current realm, he could not resist and could only obey. When he thought of the many things he had yet to do, he immediately said, "Is there anything else? If you say it now, this sovereign might be able to satisfy you." Goddess Shi-chen looked at Yang Tian and asked, "I still have some things to arrange." Yang Tian said helplessly. The black-robed old man behind goddess Shi-chen nodded and waved his hand again. The same situation as before appeared. When Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's vision recovered, they were already back at the place where the old man took them. Zhu Liang was still standing in the same place, looking extremely surprised. Just now, he and Yang Tian went down the mountain together, and a black-robed old man appeared in front of them. Then, the black-robed old man waved his hand, and Yang Tian, the little blue dragon, and the black-robed old man who suddenly appeared disappeared in front of his eyes. Facing this situation, Zhu Liang did not immediately leave. Instead, he stood in the same place and waited. Sure enough, not long after, Yang Tian appeared again. "Brother Yang, what happened just now?" Zhu Liang opened his eyes wide and asked with a face of surprise. Chapter 534. Yang Tian could not answer Zhu Liang City's question. He raised his head and looked around. He did not see the black-robed old man, nor did he sense his aura. The black-robed old man did not seem to be nearby, but Yang Tian's intuition told him that the black-robed old man had been watching him. Being stared at by someone who was much stronger than him was a very unpleasant thing. Songman Planet did not have information restrictions like Wangman Planet, so Yang Tian took out Bell from his storage bracelet. Yang Tian spoke to Bell in Chinese and asked it to translate it into Yutong's language. After encrypting it, he sent it to Seven Light Rain. In this universe, Yang Tian could only trust Seven Light Rain, Seven Color, and Zhu Wei for now. As for Zhu Yang City, Yang Tian could not trust him completely. Then, Yang Tian asked Bell to transfer the money he won this time to the anonymous account he had created in Star Royal Virtual Battle World. This way, no one would suspect Seven Light Rain when she used the money later. Next, it was time to get back the beast cores he had deposited with the Universe Bank. After sending the message, Yang Tian took out the Black Dragon spaceship from his storage bracelet. After getting on the spaceship with Zhu Yang City, Yang Tian ordered the Black Dragon spaceship to fly to Planet Eclipse. Then, he said to Zhu Yang City, "I might have to leave for a long time. What do you plan to do next?" After hearing this, Zhu Yangshi's eyes widened. He was very surprised. Then, his eyes turned red, and he looked like he was about to cry. "Brother Yang, you can't leave me behind. I don't want to go back to Superstar Divinity Temple. It's a dead end if I go back. I want to be with you." When Yang Tian heard this, he felt goosebumps all over his body. This was too mushy. Yang Tian quickly raised his hand and said, "It's not that I don't want to bring you along, but I was forced to. While I'm away, find a place to cultivate. Send the address to me in the cyberspace. I'll see you when I come back." After Yang Tian finished speaking, he took out 5 Superstar Warrior-level purple beast cores from his storage bracelet and stuffed them into Zhu Yang's hands. Brother Yang this. Seeing the beast core in his hand, Zhu Yangshi's eyes widened again. He couldn't speak for a while. Yang Tian patted Zhu Liang's shoulder and said, "These beast cores should be enough for you to reach the superstar realm. Don't just focus on your hobbies. Spend more time cultivating. That way, you can spend more time on the things you like." After Yang Tian finished speaking, Zhu Yangshi's tears flowed out. This was the first time he had heard someone use such caring words to warn him. Seeing Zhu Yang cry, Yang Tian smiled and said, "What are you crying for? I still have something for you to do." "What is it?" Hearing Yang Tian's words, Zhu Yangshi immediately became spirited. He wiped his red eyes and asked. Yang Tian said, "Collect all the technological information you can. This is because my home planet's technology is relatively backward. You can imagine my home planet as the technological level that can send people out of the atmosphere." After Yang Tian finished speaking, Zhu Yangshi thought for a while and said, "That's no different from having no technology, right? We have to learn from the beginning." "Brother Yang, I'm not saying that your planet isn't good. It's just that your technological development may have entered the wrong direction, whether it's your understanding of the universe or mathematical principles." Zhu Yangshi was much more professional than Yang Tian. His words were clear and logical. What about Yang Tian? When he had this idea, he wanted to obtain a large amount of technological information. After returning, he would stuff it into the hands of the scientists. Zhu Yangshi's idea started from education. First, they had to change the cognition of the humans on Earth, establish a perfect education system, and develop it step by step. It had to be said that Zhu Yangshi's idea was countless times more advanced than Yang Tian's idea. After hearing Zhu Yangshi's suggestion, Yang Tian wanted to give Zhu Yangshi the coordinates of Earth and let him help develop Earth. However, this matter was too big. Yang Tian couldn't completely trust Zhu Yangshi, so he put this idea aside for the time being. However, Yang Tian still asked Zhu Yangshi to write a detailed plan. Zhu Yangshi immediately agreed. He took out his support device and went to the side to think. To Zhu Yangshi, this was the only thing he could do for Yang Tian. He decided that after Yang Tian left, he would build a virtual world and use it to perfect this plan. When he came, he had used the teleportation disk on planet Erosion. He had taken a spaceship back, so the speed was naturally much slower. After half a day of flying, the Black Dragon spaceship landed on planet Erosion. On the spaceship, Yang Tian had already contacted the Universe Bank's branch manager, Du Ben. When Yang Tian entered the branch, Du Ben, who had just returned, was already waiting for him. The exchange process was very smooth. Yang Tian had used the exchange ticket to exchange for the beast cores. After checking and confirming that there were no problems, Yang Tian opened the highest level safe in the Universe Bank and placed a storage bracelet inside. Because the amount was huge, Yang Tian had to pay 10 million star crystals for every planet Erosion year, which was the time it took for planet Erosion to revolve around the fixed star. Of course, if the Universe Bank lost this batch of storage bracelet, they would have to compensate according to the price. What Du Ben wrote for Yang Tian was a 20 trillion Universe Bank insurance note. This was Du Ben taking care of Yang Tian within the scope of his authority. In fact, he knew that more than half of Yang Tian's wealth had been stored in the storage bracelet that he carried with him. No matter what, the storage bracelet here wasn't worth 20 trillion star crystals. Actually, even if the storage bracelet here was placed outside the counter and said that there were billions of star crystals worth of things inside, no one would steal it. This was because even if they took it, they wouldn't be able to open it. Of course, if Yang Tian were to encounter someone doing this, he might just steal it away. As Yang Tian expected, the black-robed elder kept following Yang Tian. When Yang Tian walked out of the Universe Bank's entrance, he saw the black-robed elder standing at the entrance, looking at him expressionlessly. Zhu Yangshi saw the black-robed elder appear again and immediately understood. "Time to go," the black-robed elder said coldly and waved his hand. Yang Tian and the black-robed elder's figures disappeared from Zhu Yangshi's sight. Sigh. Zhu Yangshi sighed helplessly, shook his head, and turned to leave the universe bank's entrance. He definitely couldn't stay on planet Erosion. Although the planet's environment was good, it was too close to 9 Barbarian Star Zone. The Superstar God Temple had just completely lost 9 Barbarian Star Zone and might want to take it back soon. If the people from the Superstar God Temple discovered him, they would definitely capture him. Zhu Liangshi didn't want to be a servant for the Superstar God Temple anymore. With the 5 Superstar Warrior Level B's cores that Yang Tian had given him, he was richer than most god generals. Why would he suffer the pain of serving others? After their vision recovered, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon found that the black-robed elder had brought them to a narrow space. There was a formation plate emitting blue light here. Next, they would definitely have to use this teleportation formation plate to go to a mysterious place. In Yang Tian's opinion, it was very mysterious. Glancing at the activated formation plate, the black-robed elder said coldly, "The place you're going to next is a place of no return. At least, before you complete your task, you won't be able to return." As soon as the black-robed elder finished speaking, Yang Tian opened his mouth in shock. The black-robed elder ignored Yang Tian's shock and said, "I chose you because of your talent in runes. I'm old and don't have time to learn, and Tai Yu is from the Superstar God Temple. Therefore, I could only choose you. I've already investigated the time you were in the Superstar God Temple. Since Tai Yu chose you, it means I didn't choose the wrong person." Yang Tian waited for the black-robed elder to finish speaking before immediately asking, "What is this place?" The black-robed elder still said in a calm tone, "You'll know when you get there. Then you have to tell me what we're going to do, right?" Yang Tian frowned and asked in a dissatisfied tone. However, the black-robed elder still said, "You'll know when you get there." Yang Tian shook his head helplessly. "You know your name, don't you?" At this time, Yang Tian was also angry and asked with a cold smile, "You can call me Black Talisman Lord." The black-robed elder raised his hand and stuffed 2 round objects into Yang Tian's hand. Yang Tian raised his hand to take a look and was so disgusted that he almost wanted to throw it away. This was because the objects Black Talisman Lord had placed in his hand were 2 human eyeballs. The 2 eyeballs were wrapped in a transparent shell. This shell was very similar to the one used to wrap beast cores. What were these used for? Yang Tian gritted his teeth and asked. Black Talisman Lord finally curled his lips into a smile and said, "You'll know when you get there." Although Yang Tian still had many questions in his heart, he didn't want to ask anymore. He simply turned around and walked into the teleportation disc with the little blue dragon. Pung! When Yang Tian disappeared from the disc exploded. The powerful shockwave shattered the small space. However, Black Talisman Lord wasn't affected by the explosion at all and remained where he was. It turned out that the narrow space just now was actually built in a meteorite. Black Talisman Lord stayed where he was for about half an hour before he disappeared in a flash. When the blue light disappeared, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were already in ruins. Yang Tian glanced around, and his eyes were filled with messy green stones. Soon, Yang Tian's gaze fixed on a slanted boulder. There were 4 large runes carved on it. Upon seeing these 4 runes, the strange program took the initiative to explain to Yang Tian. These 4 runes are text runes. Mighty Sky Warship. Mighty Sky Warship. When Yang Tian heard this name, he felt that it was very strange. Chapter 535. The Mighty Sky Battleship should be a mobile transportation tool that can travel in the universe or other environments. Why would its name be engraved on this huge rock? Yang Tian lightly jumped and arrived at a height of several hundred meters. Looking down from above, he could see everything clearly. The situation below caused Yang Tian to be greatly shocked, because the shape of the ruins below is actually like a ship. The reason why it is called a ship is because its shape is too similar to the ships made by humans on Earth. The whole thing is long, with a pointed triangle on one end and a square on the other, the Mighty Sky Battleship. When Yang Tian thought of these 4 words, he suddenly understood. This is an ancient spaceship that travels in the universe. It was originally in good condition, but was destroyed and can only stay in the universe. Visually, it is about 10,000 meters long, 3,000 meters wide, and 2,000 meters tall. What surprised Yang Tian is that this spaceship looks to be completely made of stone. Can a spaceship made of stone travel in the universe? Obviously, it was possible. The runic pyramid built by the flying cloud high priest was actually equivalent to a spaceship. Not only could it move in the universe, but it could also resist the annihilation of space. It was countless times stronger than the spaceships made by ordinary human technology. The key is the use of runes. Yang Tian also understood that goddess Shi Chun had asked Black Talisman Lord to send him here. It was likely that she wanted him to repair this stone spaceship and restore its original navigation function. Thinking of this, Yang Tian can't help but smile bitterly. He feels that Shi Chun goddess and the others think too highly of him. Made of stone and driven by rune energy, it is obviously not a simple spaceship that can travel in the universe. Otherwise, what is the use of building such a spaceship? It must have more powerful and magical functions than ordinary spaceships. Thinking that he can repair this spaceship with the help of the Strange program, Yang Tian is a little excited. After flying a few more laps around the abandoned ship and observing for a while, Yang Tian focused his attention on the surrounding space. It seems that this space is no different from other places in the universe. In the distance, there is a star that looks bigger than a fist, providing sufficient light. Further away, there are countless stars. These stars are of course stars, but because they are too far away, they are small dots of light. The situation in the distance is like this, and nearby, there are floating meteorites. They are quietly suspended in space, motionless. The whole world is like the world in the storage space. This is obviously not the storage space because time passes. Otherwise, after coming here, Yang Tian's mind will stop. The little blue dragon is also very curious about the abandoned ship in front of it. After Yang Tian flew a few laps around the ship, it jumped from Yang Tian's shoulder and jumped down to the ruins below. Although it is an abandoned ship, it has the same gravity as a normal planet. With gravity, gas could be locked in. The surface of the abandoned ship was filled with oxygen. There were no harmful gases, and it could be breathed by humans. At the same time, space radiation. This kind of environment is obviously the work of runes, creating the same environment as a habitable planet. After the little blue dragon landed below, Yang Tian also landed and casually walked through the rocks. Runes. Many of the rocks are engraved with runes. The Strange program told Yang Tian that most of the runes on these rocks are runes that have not been recorded in the rune database. There are so many of them. If you want to find all of them in the rune database of the Strange program, you don't know how long it will take. He didn't know what kind of power had destroyed the ship, but the rubble on the surface was very messy. It was almost impossible to put them back together. Then, how can you repair it and let it return to its original function? Just piecing it together is obviously impossible. The most important part of this stone spaceship is the runes. After the rocks are broken, the rune energy lines are cut off, and simple piecing together is not enough to restore the runes. If they're all big rocks, Yang Tian still has some hope, but when he saw the blue stone powder in the cracks of the huge rocks, he couldn't help but sigh. Unless you can turn back time to the time when this spaceship was intact and directly transport this intact stone spaceship back from that time. These blue stone powder were also part of the stone spaceship before, so there must be runes on it. Since it is broken like this, the runes on it can no longer be seen. After spending a few hours walking around the surface of the abandoned ship, Yang Tian stopped and sat on a rock. After looking at the surface of this abandoned ship, the next step is to find an entrance and take a look at the cabin inside. The little blue dragon ran to who knows where. Yang Tian sensed the little blue dragon's position and found that the little blue dragon is actually a few hundred meters below him. In other words, the little blue dragon has already run into this abandoned ship one step ahead. If the little blue dragon can run down, it means that it has already found the entrance to the bottom. Yang Tian sat and waited slowly. The little blue dragon's body is small and nimble, so it is more convenient for it to scour the bottom. While waiting, Yang Tian took out the 2 human eyeballs that Black Talisman Lord gave him from the storage bracelet. The eyeballs are wrapped in a transparent shell, and it looks like these 2 eyeballs were just taken from a living person. Other than the lack of blood, they look very fresh. Yang Tian looked at them and felt very uncomfortable, so he put them back into the storage bracelet. Gigi, not long after, the little blue dragon finally returned. With a flash, it appeared on Yang Tian's shoulder. It quickly cried out and waved its claws, explaining the situation below. The little blue dragon told Yang Tian that the inside is basically intact, and there are no traps. However, there are many corpses of humans and exotic beasts. It also told Yang Tian that after searching inside, there are no living creatures. Let's go. Bring me to take a look. Yang Tian was also curious, so he stood up and said to the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon nodded, jumped down from Yang Tian's shoulder, and led the way. With the little blue dragon by his side, many things are much easier to do. For example, if Yang Tian were to look for the entrance himself, who knows how long it would take. In the end, he would probably have to forcefully break open an entrance to enter. Under the little blue dragon's guidance, Yang Tian arrived at the middle of the abandoned ship. Under the little blue dragon's instructions, he moved a huge boulder that weighed a few thousand kilograms, and a hole about 2 meters in diameter appeared in front of Yang Tian's eyes. This hole obviously didn't exist when the stone spaceship was intact, but was formed by something bombarding it. There were traces of cracks on the edge of the hole. Looking in from the outside, it wasn't dark inside, as if there was something glowing inside. At this time, the strange program's voice also sounded in Yang Tian's mind. It told Yang Tian that there were energy fluctuations of air runes and time runes inside. Spatial energy, Yang Tian didn't find it strange. Currently, 99% of the runes used by cultivators were spatial runes. As for the time rune, it was much better. If there was a large amount of time runes inside for the strange program to read, it would be great for the program to complete the rune database. Because the more rune data the strange program obtained, the more powerful it would be, and the more help it would be to Yang Tian. After looking outside the hole, the little blue dragon was the first to enter the hole, and Yang Tian followed closely behind. The inside of the spaceship was about 10 meters away from the hole, and Yang Tian landed lightly on the ground. Then, he raised his head and looked around. This was a small stone room on the highest level of the stone spaceship. The stone room was about 20 meters long and wide. The ground was also made of green stone, but it looked like a hole. There were densely packed runes engraved on it. The 4 walls and the ceiling were the same. The reason why it was bright inside was because of the light emitted by some of the runes. Just as Yang Tian was feeling strange about these runes, the strange program told Yang Tian, these glowing runes are auxiliary runes. Under normal circumstances, they are combined together. They provide and transmit energy to the rune array. After the strange program's explanation, Yang Tian roughly understood what auxiliary runes were. Runes were broad and profound. Some cultivators spent tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years, and still couldn't be completely proficient in all runes. It was just like a human world. Different runes had different roles, and they needed to be combined to produce special energy and use. This stone room also had an entrance. On one side of the stone wall, there was a round hole with a diameter of 3 meters. Squeak, squeak. After Yang Tian glanced at the situation of this stone room, the little blue dragon cried out again. It asked Yang Tian to follow it to look at the stone room next to it. Yang Tian immediately walked towards the round hole. Out of the stone room, there was a square corridor outside. Similarly, the stone walls above and below, as well as on both sides, were also covered with glowing runes. After an unknown amount of time, this stone spaceship could no longer move, but some of the runes inside were still working. Under the guidance of the little blue dragon, Yang Tian left the original stone room. After walking for tens of meters in the square corridor, he entered a round hole on the left. A spacious stone room appeared in front of Yang Tian's eyes. This stone room was 3 times bigger than the previous one, and was also about 10 meters tall. In this stone room, there were dried corpses. The corpses were very messy, and some of them were even incomplete. The armor on the corpses was also broken, and there were many broken weapons scattered everywhere. It looked like this was a battlefield. These corpses were all killed when they were alive. Yang Tian glanced at these dried corpses, and his gaze quickly landed on the storage bracelets on their wrists. There were a total of more than 30 dried corpses, and at least half of the corpses had storage bracelets on them. Moreover, these storage bracelets were all high-grade goods, unlike those low-grade storage tools that would drop items when destroyed. Chapter 536. Looking at these storage bracelets, the gloominess in Yang Tian's heart, due to being forced to come here, instantly dissipated. It was obvious that this abandoned ship had existed for a very long time, even longer than the time when the bubble was created. Yang Tian squatted down and picked up a black storage bracelet from one of the corpses. Although a lot of time had passed, the corpses were still solid in an oxygenated environment. They weren't like the corpses of ordinary humans, which would crumble at the slightest touch after hundreds or thousands of years. After picking up the black storage bracelet, Yang Tian took a closer look. He was surprised to find that these storage bracelets weren't produced by a Superstar Corporation. They didn't have Superstar Corporation's logo on them. What did this mean? It meant that these storage bracelets had existed for at least 300,000 years. Superstar Corporation had appeared in this universe less than 300,000 years ago. After discovering this, Yang Tian became even happier. The older, the better. A long time ago, cultivators were very rich. At that time, a planet realm cultivator's wealth could probably be compared to a superstar realm cultivator's wealth. He didn't know if the talisman arrays on these storage bracelets were the same as the ones on today's storage bracelets. If they weren't, he would probably have to ask the strange program to redesign the decryption device. To others, these storage bracelets were no different from ordinary metal bracelets. But to Yang Tian, they were treasures. Yang Tian immediately collected all the storage tools he could find in the stone room and put them into the armor storage compartment. The abandoned ship was very spacious. Who knew how many corpses there were? When he obtained the storage bracelets, it would definitely be a big pile. With so many storage bracelets, he couldn't put them in the armor storage compartment, unless he had a teleportation array disk. Thinking up to this point, Yang Tian looked at the black storage bracelet in his hand and couldn't help but mutter to himself, if only the storage space could be stacked. That way, I would be able to put the storage bracelets in the storage space. Just as Yang Tian finished speaking, the strange program's voice sounded in his mind. This should be possible. There were two solutions. The first was to remove one of the tiny rune components from the storage tool, so that the spatial energy on the storage tool would disappear temporarily. In this way, the storage tool was no different from an ordinary item. He just had to reinstall the rune components when necessary. The second plan is to create a storage tool that can superimpose space. After the strange program finished speaking, Yang Tian asked, "Can such a storage tool be manufactured now?" The strange program replied, "Insufficient rune information." Such an answer was obviously telling Yang Tian that if he couldn't do it now, he would be able to make such a storage tool in the future when he collected all the rune information. Since he could think of this problem, would the manufacturer of this storage tool have thought of this problem as well? Or, in fact, this kind of storage tool had already been produced, but the price was too high and it wasn't popular in the universe. One had to know that cultivators only needed one or two of these storage tools. Storage tools that could overlay space were not necessary for cultivators. In this stone room, Yang Tian collected a total of 19 storage tools. Most of them were storage bracelets, and there were a few storage rings, storage belts, and so on. Storage tools like storage belts were actually similar in shape to storage rings. It was just that the main body was mounted on the belt buckle. Yang Tian took off the storage tool on his belt. This way, it could be stored in the armor storage compartment. Next, Yang Tian went to another stone room under the guidance of the little blue dragon. After Yang Tian looked through the hundreds of stone rooms on the top floor of this abandoned ship, he had an extra bag in his hand. This bag was made from tent cloth used in the wild. It was simply sewn together. In this simple bag, there were already hundreds of storage tools. For Yang Tian, this was like picking up bank cards. Every bank card had a huge amount of money in it. The key was that he could even know the password of the bank cards and withdraw the money. After collecting so many storage tools, Yang Tian's heart was no longer excited. For poor people with no money, they would be extremely excited to get a large amount of money. However, for the top rich people, money was just a string of numbers. After collecting so many storage bracelets, Yang Tian had a deeper understanding of the reduction of cultivation resources in the universe. In the process of cultivation, a cultivator actually had more cultivation resources than they needed. These cultivation resources would disappear forever after the cultivator died, unexpectedly. They could no longer circulate in the universe. Therefore, this led to a situation where cultivation resources were getting fewer and fewer. What if Yang Tian collected these ownerless storage tools and then unlocked them to release the cultivation resources in them and let them circulate in the universe? It was obvious that it would greatly reduce the cost of cultivation and give more people the opportunity to become cultivators. The original cultivators would have more opportunities to improve their realm. There would be more and more powerhouses in the universe. Thinking of these problems, Yang Tian could not help but smile. With these cultivation resources, it should not be a problem for humans on Earth to rise in the universe. At this moment, Yang Tian was even more eager to return to Earth. Yang Tian had only finished looking through the first level of the entire abandoned ship. There were at least dozens of levels below. It would be great if he could collect so many storage tools on each level. At that time, the bag would definitely not be able to hold them. He would have to ask the strange program to help him remove the parts from the storage bracelets and put them into the storage bracelets. He did as he thought. Yang Tian chose a brightly lit stone room without any corpses and took out all the storage tools from the bag. Black Talisman Lord returned to the Temple of Eternal Life. At this moment, in a quiet room, Goddess Shi-chan was staring at a head in a daze. The eyes of the head had been dug out, leaving two large empty eye sockets, which made the head look somewhat terrifying. It was the head of a young man. He had long golden hair and an extremely handsome face. The incision on his neck was extremely smooth. This young man's body was currently in the Superstar Divine Temple. His cells were being used to create protocells that could be used to modify cultivators. Ming-O, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. Don't worry, I'll find a way to revive you. But first, I'll have to find that mysterious powerhouse and retrieve your godly spirit. Black Talisman Lord appeared outside the door as Goddess Shi-chan spoke. Come in, Goddess Shi-chan said calmly. Black Talisman Lord walked slowly into the room. After glancing at the head on the table, he bowed to Goddess Shi-chan and said, Goddess, I've already sent Yang Tian over. I'm sure no one knows about this except for you and me. Goddess Shi-chan asked, Black Talisman Lord, are you sure Yang Tian can complete this task? Black Talisman Lord shook his head. I'm not sure. Then why did you destroy the path? Goddess Shi-chan asked with a frown. Black Talisman Lord sighed. I wouldn't dare to do that. There's a limit to the number of teleportations. When Talisman Lord was building this ship, he had already said it. With my knowledge in runes, I can't change it. Also, I didn't know about this beforehand. Goddess Shi-chan looked deeply at Black Talisman Lord. After knowing that he wasn't lying, she said calmly, We've already sent over 100 people, but no one has succeeded. If Yang Tian fails, we'll have to change our plan. At that time, we'll have to rely on the power of the goddess of the Superstar Divine Temple. After Goddess Shi-chan finished speaking, Black Talisman Lord nodded. If it wasn't for that space's age restriction, this old man would have done it personally. Unknowingly, many years have passed. I hope that the goddess will succeed one day. At that time, I'll be able to see. Seven Light Rain had already received Yang Tian's message. After seeing the message, Seven Light Rain and Seven Color were very shocked, because Yang Tian actually handed over 50 trillion star crystals to them. 50 trillion. Even if they sold the current Shuangjiao Corporation, they wouldn't be able to get so many star crystals. In the message, Yang Tian said that he wanted them to buy some companies that produce spaceships. It would be best if they were those that had been passed down for a long time, but had declined. This way, not only would they be able to get the technology that Yang Tian wanted, they would also save money. In the universe, the most advanced technology was definitely the manufacturers that designed and built spaceships. Just like on Earth, the aerospace industry represented a country's technology level. Space travel involved all kinds of science and technology, such as communication, materials, biology. At the same time, Yang Tian also asked the two sisters to recruit a group of technical talents to be on standby. He wanted to build a special family fortress. Finally, Yang Tian also reminded the two sisters to pay attention to their own safety. In fact, even without Yang Tian's reminder, the two sisters had already noticed this problem. Now, there were already dozens of Star Realm cultivators and 3 superstar warrior experts guarding them. Of course, to hire these cultivators, they would need to pay billions of star crystals every year. Billions of star crystals was just a small expense for the Shuangjiao Corporation. After reading Yang Tian's message, the two sisters called Zhu Wei, who already had a daughter, over. After a discussion, the 3 of them immediately started to take action. The Superstar Divine Temple was making arrangements. The Temple of Eternal Life, the various large families were also making arrangements. Of course, Yang Tian was also making arrangements. Since 7 Light Rain and the others started to take action, Yang Tian's grand plan started to slowly unfold. However, all of this still needed Yang Tian to return to complete it. After being sent to an unfamiliar space by the Black Talisman Lord, Yang Tian discovered many ancient ownerless storage tools. Naturally, he was very surprised. If he had known that this would happen, he would have probably come here voluntarily. This unfamiliar space wasn't as peaceful as Yang Tian thought. Soon, he would encounter a huge crisis. Chapter 537. The program was written by the Strange Program, and through Yang Tian's spiritual power, the program was transmitted to the auxiliary device Bell. Bell commanded the micro-machine to remove all the crucial rune components from the hundreds of storage tools that Yang Tian had collected. The tiny rune components were all numbered and stored. The next time they were taken out, they would be installed according to the numbers. The process sounded simple, but it was also very complicated. If one was not careful, the storage tools would be destroyed. It took an entire day to complete the removal of the hundreds of storage tools. After it was done, Yang Tian kept the hundreds of storage tools into the black storage bracelet that he used the earliest. The rune components that were removed, along with the hundreds of micro-intelligent machines that carried them, were put into an empty stone box that was originally used to store beast nuclei by Yang Tian and kept into the silver-white storage bracelet. After collecting a large number of storage bracelets, Yang Tian planned to do the same. Of course, after removing the first black storage bracelet, he carried out an installation test. He found that the removal process did not cause any changes to the rune arrays of the storage bracelet, and the storage bracelet was not affected at all. Only then did he start to remove them in large batches. After keeping the hundreds of storage bracelets, Yang Tian entered the second floor of the abandoned ship under the guidance of the little blue dragon. The second floor also had many stone rooms, and the space in each stone room was wider. The height was about 15 meters, which was about 5 meters higher than the first floor stone room. Under the guidance of the little blue dragon, Yang Tian went through a rotating stone staircase and entered a stone room on the second floor. In this stone room, Yang Tian found many green stones. Some of the stones had been polished, and there were runes engraved on them. Some of the stones were still half-finished and had just been polished halfway. Most of them were freshly collected, irregularly shaped stones. Under the gravity of this abandoned ship, each piece of stone seemed to weigh several tons. The little blue dragon told Yang Tian that in the hundreds of stone rooms on the second floor, basically all of them were stored with such green stones. Without the need for a scanner, Yang Tian could see that these stones were much newer than the ones that made up this abandoned ship. In other words, These stones were moved here after the stone ship was destroyed. What was the purpose of this? Without guessing, it was obvious that someone wanted to repair this ship. The density of these green stones was very high, and the material was even and fine. It was the best material to carve rune arrays, and also the best material to repair this ship. When a little blue dragon entered the interior of the ship, it searched quickly. After leading Yang Tian to the first room filled with green stones, it directly led Yang Tian to a stone room filled with corpses. This stone room was about 50 to 60 meters long and wide, but it was filled with dried corpses. The dried corpses were carelessly thrown here. It was very messy, and there were probably over 1,000 of them. Yang Tian looked carefully and was surprised to find that the corpses here weren't piled here shortly after death. Instead, after a long time, they became dried corpses and were collected by someone and thrown into this stone room. Yang Tian couldn't help but guess that someone else had come here not long before he came here. Thinking of this possibility, Yang Tian immediately became vigilant. Although he didn't sense the presence of life in the surroundings, he couldn't guarantee that there weren't any living things on this ship, right? If he had a rune artifact on him that specialized in shielding his life aura, he could prevent his life aura from being emitted and others wouldn't be able to detect it. Xiaolong, be careful. Perhaps there are other people on this ship. Yang Tian said to the little blue dragon on his shoulder. The little blue dragon nodded and immediately flew out of the stone room where the corpses were piled up. It went outside to be on guard. Next, Yang Tian rummaged through the pile of dried corpses. All the storage items on the dried corpses were taken away by him and placed into the bag in his hand. After more than an hour, he finally finished searching. The bag in Yang Tian's hand was also filled to the brim. This time, he also collected hundreds of storage bracelets. What made Yang Tian feel that it was a pity was that many of the storage bracelets on the dried corpses were destroyed in the battle. One had to know that most of these corpses were incomplete. If these corpses hadn't become dried corpses, Yang Tian probably wouldn't have been able to bear such a scene. After collecting all the storage bracelets, Yang Tian once again found an empty stone room. He took out one of the rune artifacts from the hundreds of storage bracelets and put them into 2 storage bracelets. After he was done, Yang Tian let Bell report the time. If it was calculated using the Ketla star's time, it had already been close to 4 days. Unknowingly, time passed by so quickly. After collecting more than 1,000 storage bracelets, Yang Tian was of course happy. Together with the little blue dragon, in this quiet and unfamiliar environment, he comfortably ate a meal of barbecued meat and drank to his heart's content. The fresh meat placed in the storage bracelets wouldn't spoil. The barbecued meat that Yang Tian prepared was enough to last them for a long time. But there wasn't much wine left. He had to save it later. The second floor had already been seen by the little blue dragon. Next was the third floor, the fourth floor. After searching through 25 floors, the upper structure of the ship had a rough impression in Yang Tian's mind. Starting from the first floor, the further down he went, the smaller the space of the ship's hull. The stone room on the upper floor should be used to store items. But other than the green stone materials and dried corpses, there was nothing else. Yang Tian guessed that perhaps when the cultivators on the ship were attacked, the first thing they did was to put the items into their storage bracelets. But with the storage bracelets, why would they still need to put things on the ship? Wasn't that a waste of space? Or perhaps these stone rooms were originally used to store people. Apart from the first and second floors, Yang Tian's harvest was much less. He only found more than 100 storage bracelets. After looking through the 25th floor, Yang Tian and Little Azure Dragon took out more than 100 storage tools and stored them into their storage bracelets. Yang Tian and Little Azure Dragon rested for several hours before heading down to the 26th floor. Below the 25th floor, from the 26th floor onwards, it was no longer a stone room to store items. Instead, it was the ship's control cabin. What appeared in Yang Tian's eyes were countless stone pillars with diameters of more than 5 meters. Of course, the stone pillars were also engraved with runes. Apart from the stone pillars, there were many semicircular spheres protruding from the ground between the stone pillars. They were evenly distributed between the stone pillars and connected by dark red energy lines about the thickness of an arm embedded in the ground. It gave Yang Tian the feeling that this was the ship's engine room. The semicircular spheres protruding from the ground with diameters of more than 10 meters were energy reactors. This place had clearly been damaged. Some of the stone pillars and spheres were missing a piece. The runes on the spheres that were not missing flickered, while the damaged spheres were extinguished. After entering this place, Yang Tian swept his gaze across the area and quickly circled around this floor. This floor was filled with stone pillars and semicircular spheres that were engraved with runes. There were thousands of stone pillars and nearly 1,000 semicircular spheres. A small portion of these spheres and stone pillars had been damaged and were in an extinguished state. On one of the stone walls, Yang Tian also found a hole with a diameter of 10 meters. What surprised Yang Tian was that this hole had already been patched up. The patching up of the hole was an entire piece of bluestone that was also engraved with runes. In fact, this floor had already been cleaned up and looked very clean. Not even a stone fragment could be seen. After looking at this floor, Yang Tian went to the next floor under the guidance of the little blue dragon. The 27th floor was a very vast space. From the top to the ground, it was nearly 1,000 meters high. Standing on the revolving stone steps, Yang Tian looked down. In this huge space, there were countless messy-looking pipes that were 4 to 5 meters thick. These pipes were not made of stone, but of a silver-white metal. Most of them were in good condition, but some were damaged, revealing the dark red rune energy lines inside. It was unknown what material they were made of. Among them, the thinnest rune energy threads were as thick as an arm. Countless silver-white pipes extended from various parts of the ship's arms and finally gathered on top of a huge semicircular sphere with a diameter of 1,000 meters. This semicircular sphere also had traces of damage and was also covered with runes. Yang Tian's impression of this place was that it was a huge computer room. That huge sphere was equivalent to the stone ship's processor. Before entering this floor, the little blue dragon told Yang Tian that there was something strange about that huge semicircular sphere. As for what was strange, Yang Tian was still far away and could not see it. This huge space had not been cleaned up by anyone. The ground below was covered with broken stones and a few cultivator corpses. Some silver-white pipes that had been cut by sharp weapons were haphazardly intersecting, revealing large amounts of dark red rune energy threads. Yang Tian immediately reached the bottom of the revolving stone steps and walked towards the huge sphere in the middle. The ground was littered with broken stones, and the corpses of cultivators were strewn all over the place. These corpses were also dried corpses, but they wore the same silver-white armor. As Yang Tian walked through the rubble, he would occasionally crouch down to examine the dried corpses on both sides. What disappointed him was that these dried corpses did not have any storage tools on them. It seemed that these people should be low-level soldiers guarding this floor. Naturally, they did not have any valuable storage tools on them. As he got closer and closer to that huge sphere, Yang Tian became more and more nervous. That huge ball seemed to be in danger. Not only Yang Tian, but even the little blue dragon's eyes showed a serious expression. When Little Blue was investigating this space before, it also had the same feeling, so it did not dare to approach. When Yang Tian walked around a broken silver-white pipe that had fallen to the ground, a gasping sound came from ahead. There was someone. Yang Tian immediately stopped and opened his eyes wide, looking forward. At this time, Yang Tian was still more than 100 meters away from the huge sphere in the middle. The hee sound came from the edge of the sphere. You have to be careful. There are spatial and time energy fluctuations in front. At this time, the strange program's voice sounded in Yang Tian's mind. As soon as the strange program's voice fell, a person with a strange appearance appeared. When this person appeared, his body was facing Yang Tian. His face could not be seen, but the hee sound came from this person's mouth. As soon as this person appeared, A weak energy fluctuation also appeared. As Yang Tian expected, there were still people alive on this abandoned ship. Go. Leave. Don't. Come. Just as Yang Tian was about to walk over out of curiosity, the person who was facing him spoke to him with a hoarse voice. Who are you? Yang Tian asked curiously. This person replied, a half-dead person. Don't get less than 100 steps. Yang Tian nodded. He really wanted to see this person's face, so he walked around the sphere in the middle to the left. With this person's warning, Yang Tian did not dare to come within 100 meters of him. After walking around half a circle, Yang Tian could finally see the other person's face. When he saw this person's appearance, Yang Tian could not help but open his mouth in shock. This was because the side of this person closer to the sphere had already become a dried corpse, and the side closer to the outside of the sphere had a young appearance. As expected, a half-dead person. Chapter 538. When Yang Tian saw this person naturally saw Yang Tian as well. When he saw Yang Tian, he laughed. Because half of his body was a mummy and the other half was a living body, his laughter looked very terrifying and strange. How did you become like this? Yang Tian asked with a frown. This person laughed. His hoarse and somewhat distorted voice, coupled with his current appearance, made Yang Tian feel a little uncomfortable. After laughing, this person said, You were sent here by Black Talisman Lord, right? This sentence was also intermittent. Yang Tian nodded. Yes. You too? This person said, Yes. My name is Yu Wu. What about you? I'm Yang Tian. Yang Tian replied. Yu Wu said, You must be less than 100 years old when you were alive. You must have talent in runes. Yu Wu spoke with great difficulty and intermittent. Yang Tian couldn't help but grin. If Yang Tian felt uncomfortable listening to it, Yu Wu must have felt even worse. However, half of Yu Wu's face looked extremely happy, probably because he hadn't seen anyone in a long time. How do you know? Yang Tian asked again. Yu Wu guessed more or less, but Yang Tian's rune talent came from a strange program. Yu Wu said, Because of this strange space, only those who are less than 100 years old can enter. Those who are qualified to be sent here by Black Talisman Lord must have talent in runes. Black Talisman Lord sent us here to repair this ship, right? Yang Tian asked. Yu Wu said, Yes, but it's too difficult. I've been here for 100,000 years. I don't know how to repair it. During this process, you'll encounter danger. If you're not careful, you'll be eaten by them. 100,000 years. Them? Seeing Yang Tian's surprised and puzzled expression, Yu Wu said, The reason I can live for 100,000 years is because of the plants on the bottom of the ship. It's because there are some plants growing at the bottom of the ship. After eating them, your body cells will change. It will slow down your aging process. However, you won't be able to progress any further in your cultivation. They referred to the runic mechanical beasts created by the Talisman Master. They possessed a unique method of attack, be it space or time. They were very difficult to destroy. The 10 overfellows in front of me were all devoured by the rune mechanical beasts. Yu Wu took a full 10 minutes to finish his speech. After Yu Wu finished speaking, Yang Tian turned his head and looked around. However, nothing happened. Yu Wu said, They only appear once in a while. You can't see them now. In fact, when they appear, if you don't deliberately guard against them, it's very difficult to discover them. You're saying that this place was created by the Talisman Master? Yang Tian said in surprise. Yes. Yu Wu said, Other than the Talisman Lord, who else has the ability to create a mighty sky warship that can directly pass through the universe barrier? Unfortunately, the Talisman Lord had sealed the ship in this space before it could even set sail after it had been built. You must ask why. In fact, the Talisman Lord didn't want this universe to be destroyed because of his desire to explore. Therefore, not only did the Talisman Lord destroy the runic program he created, he also made himself disappear from this universe. After Yu Wu finished speaking, Yang Tian was puzzled. Since the Talisman Lord knew that it wasn't good to create this mighty sky warship, why didn't he destroy it? Yuwu said, "Some things aren't good now, but it doesn't mean they won't be good in the future. What if this universe needs it later? You must know that this universe also has a lifespan." Yuwu's words made sense. Yang Tian nodded and asked, "Since this is a sealed space, why are there so many people here? Why are there so many corpses on the ship? Also, this ship has been destroyed as well." Yuwu said, "Those who died on the ship were all Talisman Dao experts. They were once the Talisman Lord's subordinates. If the Talisman Lord wanted to destroy the ship, they naturally wouldn't be willing. Therefore, they thought of a way to find this place. Unexpectedly, the Talisman Lord was already prepared and set up runic mechanical beasts on the ship. He even added restrictions to this sealed space. It's all because of greed." After Yuwu finished speaking, Yang Tian shook his head and said, "I'm going to disappear soon. Do you have any other questions?" Yuwu said, "The flow of time here is different from outside. 100,000 years here is only 10 years outside. No one has spoken to me for 100,000 years. If I had known this, I would have bought a few intelligent mechanical beauties back then. I wouldn't have ended up like this. Once a person is lonely, it's easy to do stupid things. Do you know how to leave this place?" Yang Tian asked again. Yuwu said, "This is a very, very powerful sealed space. Everyone who comes here wants to leave. However, in the end, they helplessly discovered that the further away they were from the ship, the faster the flow of time. Without the ship's protection, they would quickly age. Those who came in were all under 100 years old. Their realms weren't high, and their lifespans were extremely short. Before they could charge out of this sealed space, they would die of old age. Therefore, they could only helplessly return here. Therefore, the only way to leave this sealed space is to get the ship moving again. However, the damage to the ship is too severe. Forget 100,000 years, even 1,000,000 years wouldn't be enough to repair it. Therefore, once you're here, you can forget about leaving. Unless what?" Yang Tian hurriedly asked. Yuwu said, "Unless you have the runic program created by the Rune Master, you can repair the ship. In fact, even if the Rune Master came personally, he wouldn't be able to do it without the help of the runic program." After Yuwu finished speaking, Yang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. This was because Yuwu had glanced at Yang Tian's chest as he spoke. During this process, Yang Tian's heart couldn't help but race. Yuwu's gaze seemed to have the ability to penetrate everything. He could see the pendant under his armor. Inside the pendant was the insectoid brain, and the strange program was stored inside. Even Great Priest Tai Yu and Black Talisman Lord hadn't noticed this pendant. How had Yuwu done it? An inconceivable thought appeared in Yang Tian's mind. Yang Tian narrowed his eyes in suspicion. Yuwu didn't seem to think too much and continued, "Yang Tian, I'll be disappearing again very soon. I'll only appear after a year. I hope I'll be able to see you when I reappear. Remember, when the runic beasts appear, it's best if you hide on the top floor." As soon as Yuwu finished speaking, Yang Tian said, "No need." "No need for what?" Yuwu was puzzled and couldn't help but ask. Yang Tian smiled. "Because you won't live until then." With that, Yang Tian raised his hand and pointed at Yuwu. Qi, an extremely condensed and powerful origin power, wrapped in Yang Tian's mental power, shot out from his finger. In order to ensure that Yuwu wouldn't escape, Yang Tian activated his mental power and suddenly accelerated. This powerful force instantly pierced through Yuwu's head. This happened too suddenly. The remaining half of Yuwu's face revealed an expression of extreme shock. As Yang Tian expected, Yuwu was extremely powerful. If it were an ordinary cultivator, their head would have exploded and their body would have melted away. However, Yuwu's body wasn't like that. After being hit by Yang Tian's finger, he didn't die immediately. Moreover, he still had time to talk to Yang Tian. "How did you find out?" Yuwu's remaining eye closed as he asked this question from the other half of his mouth. Yang Tian said, "If I'm not wrong, Yuwu, you're one of the Rune Lord subordinates. I don't know why you become like this. However, I'm not interested in knowing. You must have seen that I have the runic program created by the Rune Lord, right?" Yuwu said, It's all my fault for being too excited and exposing myself. Actually, I'm not one of the Rune Lord subordinates. I am the Rune Lord. Ah. Yuwu's answer shocked Yang Tian. He couldn't help but open his mouth in shock. After recovering from his shock, Yang Tian shook his head. You're not the Rune Lord. Yuwu said, after I woke up, I had the Rune Lord's memories. How can I not be the Rune Lord? I still remember the process of creating the runic program. You're very smart. Only by killing me will you have a chance to live. I should have swallowed you earlier. It's all because I'm lonely. I haven't talked to anyone in a long time. As he said this, Yuwu's voice became weaker and weaker until it was inaudible. As his voice became deeper and deeper, Yuwu's life aura became weaker and weaker. Finally, the remaining half of Yuwu's body began to melt like wax in a fire. Phew! Looking at the remaining half of Yuwu's corpse, Yang Tian couldn't help but let out a long sigh. At this moment, the strange program's voice sounded in Yang Tian's mind. Yuwu isn't the Rune Lord. He's just a clone of the Rune Lord. Clone. Hearing this, Yang Tian was shocked again. In this short period of time, Yang Tian had been shocked by too many things. The strange program said, the Rune Lord created this clone to better control this ship. Yuwu and the ship were a single entity. Therefore, if the ship can't move, he can't move either. Half of the ship is destroyed, and half of his body is dead. After the strange program said this, Yang Tian finally understood how Yuwu's half-dead and half-alive body had been created. However, another question appeared in Yang Tian's mind. Yang Tian didn't ask, but the strange program took the initiative to answer. Yuwu has the Rune Lord's aura on him. I was created by the Rune Lord. When I saw him, some of this information was awakened in my database. The strange program actually had memories. Yang Tian let out another long sigh. He didn't want to delve into this matter. Now, he had to think of a way to repair this ship. At least half of what Yuwu had said was true. The personal experiences he had mentioned were probably the experiences of the previous cultivator who had been sent here. That cultivator's name was also Yuwu. Chapter 539. After Yuwu was killed by Yang Tian, the sense of danger that appeared in Yang Tian's mind disappeared. His sixth sense had told Yang Tian that the danger was coming from Yuwu. What made Yang Tian feel strange was why Yuwu had told him to stay 100 steps away. Yang Tian thought about it and felt that Yuwu was probably afraid that he would be discovered if he got too close. Just as Yang Tian was about to go down to the first level to see what was going on, the strange program reminded Yang Tian that there was a large amount of rune energy around him. Pung, pung, pung. As soon as the strange program's voice disappeared from Yang Tian's mind, suddenly, in this vast space, a large number of giant insects appeared out of thin air. As soon as these giant insects appeared, they fell onto the rocks on the ground and smashed them into pieces. Their bodies were very heavy under the gravity of the ship. These giant insects were of different shapes. Some are like centipedes, some are like mantises, and some are like spiders. They were not real insects. They did not have any signs of life. Their bodies were sharp and their outer shells were shining with a metallic luster. These must be the rune mechanoid beasts that Yuwu had mentioned. Pung, pung, pung. Within a few seconds, at least 1,000 of these rune mechanoid beasts had appeared in this vast space. Among them, the closest one to Yang Tian was a rune mechanoid beast that looked like a mantis. It attacked Yang Tian first. It was about 10 meters away from Yang Tian. After it appeared, it looked around. When it saw Yang Tian, it jumped on all four legs and pounced toward Yang Tian. This mantis mechanoid beast was 3 meters long. When it pounced toward Yang Tian, it crushed the rocks on the ground. Strangely, its body was still in the air when it suddenly disappeared. Invisibility. Yang Tian, who was already prepared for battle, quickly dodged to the side, even though he could not see the mantis mechanoid beast that had suddenly disappeared. Pump! When Yang Tian dodged, the mechanical mantis appeared where he was standing just now. Its two side-like forelimbs slashed the ground fiercely, making a loud noise. The ground was protected by runes, so the mechanical mantis' powerful slashes did not damage the ground. This speed was simply too fast. Yang Tian dodged to the side. Just as he steadied himself, a warning sign appeared in his heart again. He instinctively dodged to the side. Another mechanical spider suddenly appeared out of thin air, and no one knew where it came from. These fellows actually knew how to conceal themselves, and their speed was extremely fast. Yang Tian didn't dare to stay here any longer, and quickly returned to where he came from. Fortunately, Yang Tian was a superstar realm cultivator. His dodging speed was very fast. Even in the face of these invisible mechanical beasts, he could dodge instantly. If a cultivator below the superstar realm encountered such a situation, they would probably die. Yang Tian quickly returned where he came from. Behind him, there was a series of rustling sounds. A large number of mechanical beasts were tailing him. After a few minutes, Yang Tian returned to the top of the ship from which he came. Just as Yu had said, when he reached the top, the rune mechanical beasts did not continue to chase him. They all stopped at the first level below. Where did these things come from? Yang Tian was very confused. These rune mechanical beasts were also physical, but they appeared out of thin air. It was too strange. The only possibility was that they had been teleported here. There must be a place on this ship specifically for these mechanical beasts. Under certain circumstances, they would be teleported to various places on the ship. Or perhaps these rune mechanical beasts had rune arrays with teleportation functions on them. If he wanted to know the details, he would have to catch one and study it. With this thought, Yang Tian turned his head and said to the little blue dragon lying on his shoulder, "Xiaolong, go down and catch one. Let's study it." The little blue dragon nodded. It flew 2 circles in the air and turned into a dragon more than 10 meters long. With a bang, it dove into the broken entrance. Yang Tian waited for a few minutes. There was a noise below. A moment later, the little blue dragon rushed out with a 3-meter-long mantis mechanical beast in its mouth. This mechanical beast could still move, but its head had been bitten off by the little blue dragon. After the little blue dragon put it down, this mechanical beast with a broken head spun in place. Suddenly, with a bang, it fell apart and turned into a pile of parts. Only then did Yang Tian curiously walk forward to observe. These rune mechanical beasts did not have any electronic devices in their bodies. They were all made of various materials with runes engraved on them. Yang Tian picked them up one by one and inspected them. Although they had fallen apart, the parts that made up this mantis mechanical beast were still emitting faint energy waves. In the process of observing, Yang Tian suddenly opened his eyes wide. This was because he saw that the mantis mechanical beast's head that had been bitten off by the little blue dragon actually had a sarcoma. No, it should not be a sarcoma. It should be a process brain. During the Superstar Divinity Temple's examination, Yang Tian had seen an insect brain. This thing was very similar to an insect brain. It was just that it looked a little dry and a little black in color. It was not as fresh as an insect brain that had just been taken out of an insect's head. At this time, the strange program's voice rang in Yang Tian's mind. Just runes and various materials are unable to create this mechanical beast that has a certain level of intelligence like a real insect. Therefore, a biological brain is needed as assistance. So that's how it is. Since the insect brain can be used to create these mechanical beasts that mimic insects, can we also use human brains to create rune robots? Yang Tian asked. The strange program said, "Of course you can. However, human brains all have self-awareness. The rune robots created have very high intelligence and are difficult to control. Therefore, humanoid rune robots are very rarely created." After awakening a portion of its memories, the strange program's knowledge seemed to have increased by a lot. After looking through all the rune components, Yang Tian made a new discovery. He discovered that other than the energy chamber used to extract energy from beast cores, he also saw a tool that was extremely similar to a rune pen. Seeing this rune component, Yang Tian said in surprise, "Could it be that these mechanical beasts know how to carve runes?" At the same time, Yang Tian thought of another problem. That was, the rune mechanical beasts on this large ship were not only used to defend against intruders. They also had other functions. For example, repairing and maintaining this large ship. Thinking of this, the strange program said, "Your guess is correct. It should be like this. If we can control these rune mechanical beasts, repairing this large ship shouldn't be a problem." "Can we control them?" Yang Tian asked expectantly. The strange program was silent for a few seconds before replying. "After some calculations, it should be possible. I need more rune information regarding these rune mechanical beasts. This shouldn't be a big problem." Yang Tian immediately said to the little blue dragon, "Xiaolong, go catch a few more. It's best if they don't rot." The little blue dragon nodded and once again rushed down to the lower level. After a few minutes, the little blue dragon returned with a rune mechanical beast that was similar in shape to a spider in its mouth. These rune mechanical beasts were very strong and moved very quickly. They could also use the power of runes to conceal themselves. Catching a complete one was very difficult. A part of the spider-shaped rune mechanical beast's body had been bitten off by the little blue dragon. The wound was on its back. Maybe it was because the wound had destroyed the spell symbols and caused the energy to not flow smoothly after being put down by the little azure dragon. Its 6 legs and 2 caliceri were shaking nonstop, letting out a clattering noise. Pung! A moment later, this spider-shaped rune mechanical beast also disintegrated. There were still many more below. Seeing this spider-shaped mechanical beast disintegrate, the little blue dragon was very depressed. Without needing Yang Tian's reminder, it rushed down to the lower level again. This time, the little blue dragon was more careful and finally caught a slightly complete spider-shaped mechanical beast. As soon as it was put down, Yang Tian raised his sword and stabbed it into the back of this rune mechanical beast. Yang Tian was very accurate. This stab directly destroyed the mechanical spider's energy chamber. This time, without the drive of energy, this mechanical spider finally stopped moving. Under the strange program's suggestion, Yang Tian used his spiritual power and carefully observed this rune mechanical beast. All the runes on it, as well as its internal structure, were recorded by the strange program. Next, he needed other mechanical beast specimens. The little blue dragon rushed down again. A few days later, Yang Tian sat in front of a simple stone table made of stone. On the stone table, there was a round green stone with a diameter of about 10 centimeters that had been polished. Under the command of Ding Dang, the micro-intelligent machine was modifying this green stone. The little blue dragon had turned back into a mini dragon and was lying on the stone table, looking curiously. In these few days, the little blue dragon had caught a total of 35 rune mechanical beasts. Most of them had fallen apart after being caught by the little blue dragon. The few that did not fall apart provided detailed information for the strange program. After the strange program's calculations, the result was, in order to control these rune mechanical beasts, he needed to find the main control room that controlled these rune mechanical beasts. And in order to reach the bottom, he could not be attacked by these rune mechanical beasts. This also made Yang Tian understand that repairing this large ship was not as troublesome as he thought. As long as he was in the main control room below, he could start the repair program. Then, these rune mechanical beasts would automatically start to repair this large ship. What made Yang Tian excited was that the strange program told him that if he knew the structure of this large ship, he could collect all the runes related to this large ship and perhaps make a copy of this large ship. Needless to say, once this large ship was repaired, it would definitely be taken away by Goddess Shi Qin's group after it was driven out. If he could make a copy, Yang Tian would not lose out. Chapter 540. After this round stone tablet was made, 10 star crystals cut into regular particles were placed inside as an energy source. Bursts of rune energy fluctuations were emitted from it. This kind of rune energy had the same frequency as the rune energy emitted by the rune mechanical beasts. Yang Tian put it on. After going down, the rune mechanical beasts would think that he was one of them and would not attack him again. After making the preparations, Yang Tian put the stone tablet into the storage cabin of the armor and went down to the first floor through the hole in the top floor. The little blue dragon lay on Yang Tian's shoulder, looking at everything in front of it curiously. Previously, after catching more than 30 rune mechanical beasts, the little blue dragon also suffered some injuries, but they were all minor injuries and quickly recovered. After going down again in the empty stone room, the rune mechanical beasts could not be seen with the naked eye because these guys were invisible. But in Yang Tian's mind, there were 3 rune mechanical beasts lying on the side of this stone room. This was the image that the strange order simulated in Yang Tian's mind after receiving the rune energy. Among them, there were 2 spider-type rune mechanical beasts and 1 mantis-type rune mechanical beast. After seeing Yang Tian's arrival, these 3 invisible guys turned their heads and slowly crawled towards Yang Tian. Yang Tian immediately slowed down, ready to face the attack of these 3 rune mechanical beasts at any time. What if the stone tablet doesn't work? Fortunately, the 3 rune mechanical beasts approached Yang Tian a little and then crawled to the side, no longer paying attention to Yang Tian. The stone tablet was indeed useful. Yang Tian was finally able to relax. Walking quickly between the rune mechanical beasts, Yang Tian quickly came to the first floor where the big sphere was installed. Here, the space was wider, and the range of activity of the rune mechanical beasts was larger. When they moved from one place to another, they would temporarily appear. This was a strange scene. Yang Tian curiously watched for a long time. These rune mechanical beasts were placed here with nothing to do. Their movements were irregular, and the chaotic rune energy fluctuations made them extremely vigilant. This was the 27th level. Just as Yang Tian was about to descend to the next level, all the rune mechanical beasts suddenly disappeared. Looks like the appearance of these mechanical beasts also has a pattern. When no one intruded and the alert was lifted, they would return to their original place. The 28th floor was only 100 meters high. When Yang Tian came to this floor, he knew that this was the control room of the ship. The walls, ceiling, and floor of this floor were all covered with a thick layer of translucent crystal-like material. Yang Tian felt as if he had come to a room made of ice. These translucent materials were also engraved with many runes. Yang Tian squatted down and scratched the translucent material with his fingernails. The result was that the material was harder than ordinary steel. In this space, of course, there were also pillars that supported the ship, but there were far fewer of them. Each pillar was thicker, about 10 meters in diameter. These pillars were also covered with translucent materials. This floor was also very spacious. Yang Tian walked several thousand meters toward the ship's bow and saw a tall control panel. This control panel was about 10 meters high and had a trapezoidal shape. It was about 15 meters long and had a wide seat at the top. Yang Tian curiously walked up the stone steps to the control panel. He came to the side of the seat and looked at the rune switches on the control panel. The ship was still in a damaged state, and the entire control panel did not have any rune energy fluctuations. The green one is the main switch. After it is turned on, it will activate the ship's energy furnace. The red one is the stop button. It will shut down the ship. The leftmost one is the direction knob. It will adjust the ship's forward direction. The strange program explained the functions of the switches on the control panel to Yang Tian. Yang Tian's memory was very strong. After the strange program finished explaining, he remembered everything. What surprised Yang Tian was that there were weapon switches on the control panel. The weapons on the ship were not ordinary weapons. For example, one of the buttons was actually able to fire space annihilation energy. In addition to the weapons, there was also a special switch group. As long as it was turned on, it would activate the universe travel mode and leave this universe. After leaving this universe, where would it go? Yang Tian's heart was filled with questions. The fact that this ship was still in this universe meant that it had not activated the universe travel mode. When the time comes, I must take a look. Yang Tian thought to himself as he looked at the switch for the universe travel mode. The operation of the ship was completely manual. There was no intelligent program to assist it. In this aspect, unless the strange program controlled the ship, it would be able to achieve the simple operation of electronic technology. Next, Yang Tian went to the next floor, which was the 29th floor of the ship. The 29th floor was dozens of meters high and had a large number of teleportation array disks. There were hundreds of them densely packed together. In the middle was a large teleportation array disk that was about 5 meters tall and hundreds of meters in diameter. It could teleport hundreds to thousands of people and a large number of goods at once. Yang Tian's Black Dragon spaceship could even teleport through such an array disk. All the teleportation array disks on this floor, regardless of their size, were in an extinguished state. These teleportation array disks were also treasures. They could lead to various places in the universe, and the locations were marked on them. Unfortunately, these teleportation array disks were bound to the ship and could not be taken away. After looking around the 29th floor, Yang Tian went to the 30th floor of the ship. The 30th floor was also a very spacious space. It was about 100 meters high. On this floor, there were densely packed conical parking racks. They were all made of stone. On each rack, there were hundreds to thousands of rune mechanical beasts. These mechanical beasts seemed to be in a dormant state. They were quietly lying on the conical parking racks without moving. When Yang Tian walked to the middle of this floor, another control panel appeared in front of him. This was a circular control panel. It was about 50 meters in diameter. There were hundreds of seats evenly distributed inside the circular control panel. Without the strange program's explanation, Yang Tian knew that this must be the internal control room. The control panel here could control all the rune mechanical beasts here. Yang Tian walked around the circular control panel. On the circular control panel, there were also densely packed rune switches. Most of them were like those volume switches that could be moved up and down. Beside each switch, there were also rune explanations. How is it? Can I use this control panel to repair this ship? Yang Tian asked the strange program in his mind. The strange program said, "It seems that this place is complete. However, there is no energy. The energy supply device here should be separate from the energy supply device of the ship. Otherwise, the design would not be logical." Yang Tian nodded. He quickly looked around this floor and did not find the existence of an energy furnace. Perhaps it was on the next floor. Under the guidance of the little blue dragon, Yang Tian immediately went down to the 31st floor. The 31st floor was like a physical body. After Yang Tian entered through the entrance, there was a long stone path. The stone path was square in shape. It was about 5 meters in length and width. The 4 walls were engraved with runes. Following this stone path, he quickly walked forward for more than 10 minutes. After walking for several thousand meters, Yang Tian arrived at a square stone room. The stone room was not big. It was only about 30 meters in diameter. There was a stone platform here. On the platform was a stone sphere with a diameter of about 5 meters. On the sphere were dense runes and energy lines the thickness of a finger. The strange program said, "This is the energy supply device of the logistics module. The energy of the equipment inside has been used up. Moreover, it has been damaged by someone." Damaged? After the strange program said that, Yang Tian opened his eyes wide and carefully observed the sphere. After walking around the sphere, a small gap appeared in front of Yang Tian's eyes. The gap was only the size of a finger. However, it just happened to cut off one of the rune energy lines. Moreover, there should be another rune missing. In other words, not only did someone cut off one of the rune energy lines, they also took away a crucial rune. It was obvious that this was a type of technical destruction. At the very least, only someone who understood runes could do this so accurately. If the rune energy device was carelessly destroyed, it would also explode. The power of the explosion was even more terrifying than the energy furnaces made by ordinary humans. This backup energy furnace was probably the most important part of the ship. Therefore, there were layers of stone walls outside. To reach this place, one had to pass through the stone path. Next, Yang Tian walked around the stone sphere a few times. After the strange program recorded the runes on the sphere, it started to calculate. In order to repair the ship, the first step was to repair the energy furnace. While the strange program was calculating, Yang Tian arrived at the 32nd level. The 32nd level was the lowest level of the ship. On this floor was the residential area. It looked like a small city. There were all kinds of plants that Yang Tian did not recognize. Most of them had withered, and only a few were still alive. The plants that Yu Wu had mentioned could live for a long time after eating them were probably found on this level. There were many stone houses built in the middle of the dense vegetation. Although they looked square on the outside, the decorations inside were extremely luxurious. Yang Tian pushed aside a large patch of withered vines and walked along the stone path that was covered by the withered vines. He walked into one of the houses. In this house, Yang Tian found high-tech life support equipment. However, these things had long lost their energy and had become scrap metal. Next, Yang Tian went in and out of a few more houses. The situation inside was mostly the same. This place was extremely quiet. It had been abandoned for a long time. Apart from a few strange plants that were still alive, there were no animals or people. It was likely that the people who had died on the upper two floors had originally lived on this floor. After a simple look, Yang Tian returned to the logistics energy room and prepared to repair the missing energy device. Chapter 541. The strange program quickly calculated the missing rune. After that, the strange program finished writing the repair program. Yang Tian took out the auxiliary bell and the mini AI machine. After a few hours, a large number of mini AI machines, under the command of Bell, created a small piece of broken stone that was very compatible with the gap. If it was manually repaired, it could be used, but it would not take too long. The rune energy reaction device's operation was also not stable. After the stone was repaired, the mini AI machines moved it to the gap. After another hour, it was finally repaired. The repair was perfect. At least, Yang Tian could not see any traces of repair with the naked eye. To repair this small piece, there was another problem for human practitioners. That was, they did not know what kind of rune was missing from the gap. This would require precise calculations. Even for practitioners who were proficient in runes, it would take a long time to calculate. The time required would probably need to be calculated in years. After installing the missing stone, Yang Tian took out a small rune pen that he obtained from the Great Universe Palace. Under the control of the strange program, his body inscribed the missing rune. After inscribing, the strange program told Yang Tian that the repair was perfect. However, it would take a long time to operate the device. Unless Yang Tian did not consider the lifespan of a rune energy reaction device. How long will it take? Yang Tian asked. 10 years. The strange program said indifferently. Yang Tian paused and furrowed his brows. 10 years was simply too long. Why does it need so long? Yang Tian did not understand. The strange program said, the molecules of an object are constantly in motion. The molecular activity of this stone material is extremely low. It will take about 10 years for the repaired stone material's molecules to form a cross-connection with the original stone material's molecules. Only then will the connection be more stable. Sorry, I did not calculate this problem before. After the strange program finished speaking, Yang Tian finally understood. Actually, he had learned this kind of physics knowledge before. For example, if two smooth objects of the same type were stacked on top of each other, when the top piece was picked up, the bottom piece would also be picked up. This is because there is an attractive force between the molecules or atoms at the interface, and the effect looks like a magnet. If these two objects with extremely smooth surfaces were placed together for a long time, after many years, the two objects might fuse together. In other words, from a microscopic point of view, any object in this universe is actually in constant motion. Nothing. I'll wait for 10 years. Yang Tian felt relieved when he thought that 10 years here would only be equivalent to a day or even a few days in the outside world. Yang Tian believed that Yu hadn't lied to him about the passage of time. The time he mentioned was definitely different from the time on Earth, but the difference would not be more than a month at most. In the outside world, let alone a month, even if several years passed, the situation would probably not change much. After all, the Superstar Divine Temple would not be destroyed so easily by the Eternal Temple. Yang Tian did not care about the survival of the Superstar Divine Temple at all. He was worried about Qin Fei. Actually, in this space where time passed faster than the outside world, it was a good place to cultivate. Of course, the prerequisite was that there was enough energy to replenish it. Yang Tian did not lack beast cores in his storage bracelet. There were many things he had to do in the future. Yang Tian was a person who did things in an organized manner. He immediately planned out the rest of the time in detail. In the first 3 days, he would help the strange program read the runes on the large ship. There were many runes on the ship. It could be said that the runes here were gathered from the entire universe. Whether it was the number or the type, it was not something the Superstar Divine Temple could compare to. If he finished reading all the runes on the large ship, Yang Tian believed that the strange program would be upgraded. Perhaps it would not need to be attached to a specific object in the future and could move freely like a human. In the next 3 days, with the help of the little blue dragon, he would train his body. In the next 3 days, he would cultivate quietly and observe the cells in his body, as well as the energy world in his body. This kind of cultivation under the microscopic state was also a necessary process. It was also a necessary process for cultivation, because this way, he could better understand the changes in his body's cells. On the 10th day, he used it to rest. The process of cultivation was arduous and long. Of course, he also needed to cultivate. This way, not only would his body be able to recuperate, his mind would also be able to relax, which was beneficial for cultivation. On this day of rest, he could also use it to decipher the more than 1,000 storage tools collected on the large ship. If he helped the strange program to finish reading all the runes on the large ship, he would spend more time on cultivation. This kind of plan was a cycle every 10 days. In order to maintain this schedule, Yang Tian also asked Belle to remind him at appropriate times. For cultivation, time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Of course, this kind of time was calculated by Belle using Ketla Star's time. As for the 10 years that the strange program mentioned, it was also the same. If it was calculated using Earth's time, it had actually been about 5 years. Everything that existed in this space-time would be affected by time. Even Yang Tian's life age had increased by 3 years. Although less than a day had passed in the outside world. 3 years' time, to a cultivator, was not a long time. They were constantly busy every day and did not feel the passage of time at all. Today, Yang Tian had already raised his realm to the Superstar Warrior realm. When sparring with the little blue dragon, Yang Tian would not be suppressed anymore. The more than 1,000 storage bracelets had all been deciphered. If he knew that he would have to stay here for such a long time, Yang Tian would not have dismantled all the storage bracelets and put them into his black storage bracelet. Until now, Yang Tian had not seen what was in those storage bracelets. The subordinates of the Talisman Lord were people from a long, long time ago. No matter how poor they were, they should be richer than a Superstar Realm cultivator now, right? In these 3 years, through reading the runes on the large ship, Yang Tian had also learned a lot about this large ship. For example, the combat power of those rune mechanical beasts was actually only 1/10 of their peak state. And the defensive power of the large ship was also the same. Why was it like this? Because too much time had passed, and the energy loss was too severe. Fortunately, this was the case. Otherwise, Yang Tian would have to spend several times more time to repair the large ship. Also, the damage to this large ship was the result of these people's internal strife and the battle with the rune mechanical beasts. Everyone wanted to gain control of this large ship. In the end, not only did they destroy this large ship, but they also lost their lives. The large ship had actually been severely damaged. The reason it did not look particularly serious now was naturally because the young rune geniuses that the Black Talisman Lord had sent here had repaired it. Unfortunately, those people had not gone in the right direction because they did not have the strange program's help. These young rune geniuses had all died at Yuwu's hands. Yuwu had wanted to devour cultivators and obtain energy to strengthen himself so that he could break free from the large ship. Unfortunately, he had only completed a small part of it before he was killed by the vigilant Yang Tian. There were too many runes on the large ship. In 3 years, Yang Tian had only helped the strange program read a little more than 1/3 of them. This was about the same as the 10 years that the program had said. Yang Tian did not avoid wondering if the strange program was afraid that the large ship would leave after it was repaired, so it had deliberately said that it would take 10 years. The strange program naturally knew what Yang Tian was thinking, but it did not explain. This was because it knew that Yang Tian was just imagining things. After going through so many things, Yang Tian and the strange program were already in a mutually dependent relationship. Neither of them could leave the other. After 3 years of cultivation, Yang Tian had advanced by 1 level. Of course, it was time for the little blue dragon to advance as well. The little blue dragon was now at the Superstar Warrior level. If it advanced by 1 level, it would become a Superstar Warrior level 5. At that time, the human and dragon would be able to fight against a peak Superstar Warrior level cultivator. The little blue dragon needed an enormous amount of energy to advance again. Yang Tian stopped his previous schedule and started to collect enough high-grade beast cores for the little blue dragon. He hoped to find a few Superstar King level beast cores among the 1,000-odd storage tools. So far, Yang Tian had only heard of such beast cores. He had never seen one with his own eyes. If he could not find any Superstar King level beast cores, he would have to make up for it with a large number of low-grade beast cores. In the era of the Talisman Master, mutated beasts were rampant. With the Talisman Master's runic program, he was practically invincible in the universe. It shouldn't be a problem for him to hunt down some Superstar Peak level mutated beasts and collect a large number of high-grade beast cores, right? With this kind of expectant thought, Yang Tian started to bind the storage tools to himself one by one and check the things inside. The little blue dragon knew that Yang Tian was looking for a source of energy that could help it advance. It raised its upper body and looked at Yang Tian curiously, as well as the large pile of storage tools in front of Yang Tian. The first item was a red storage bracelet. It should have been used by a female cultivator in the past. The binding process was the same as the storage tools produced by Superstar Corporation. It seemed that Superstar Corporation, which produced storage bracelets today, had indeed inherited the technology of making storage tools from the previous era. Superstar Corporation could only produce them. Although a long time had passed, there was no improvement or change in the production of storage tools. This storage bracelet did not disappoint Yang Tian. Inside, Yang Tian found over 1,000 high-grade beast cores. The pleasantly surprised Yang Tian immediately took out an empty box and placed over 1,000 beast cores into the box at once. Of the 1,000 beast cores, the worst was a purple Superstar Warrior level beast core. It accounted for half of the total number, a few hundred. A third of the beast cores were golden Superstar Warrior level beast cores. The rest were even higher grade beast cores. A Superstar King class beast core had 3 colors, just like a small colored ball. They were golden overall with red and blue patterns. There were 135 of them. Superstar Lord level beast cores were white overall with 5-colored cloud patterns on the surface. They looked very beautiful. There were 31 of them. As for Superstar Domain Lord level beast cores, they were 9-colored, like crystal balls wrapped in countless colored threads. There were a total of 20 of them. After cleaning up, Yang Tian thought about it and decided to divide the beast cores into different types and put them into different storage bracelets. This way, it would be more convenient to use them later. Yang Tian took out 4 more empty boxes. He put the beast cores of the 5 different grades into different boxes. After sorting them, Yang Tian took off the red storage bracelet from his right wrist. Then, from the large pile of storage tools, he picked the most exquisite purple storage bracelet and put it on his wrist. Chapter 542. After a series of binding procedures, Yang Tian's consciousness entered the purple storage bracelet's storage space. In this space, there were also a large number of beast cores. What surprised Yang Tian was that there was actually a black sphere the size of a soccer ball, floating above a large pile of beast cores. Yang Tian immediately released these beast cores in the black sphere. All of the beast cores were also beast cores of the superstar realm and above. It seemed that a long time ago, these cultivators were quite picky. They were not interested in collecting beast cores below the superstar realm. Yang Tian first picked up the black sphere that was the size of a soccer ball. Is this a beast core? It doesn't look like it. Yang Tian had never seen or heard of such a large beast core. On the outside of this black sphere, there was also a transparent outer shell. The protection method was the same as the beast cores. Under the transparent outer shell, the surface of the black sphere was also very smooth, like a solid sphere made of polished graphite. Yang Tian used his hand to pinch it. It seemed to weigh about 100 pounds, heavier than a solid shot put. What the hell is this thing? While Yang Tian was observing this black sphere, the little blue dragon slowly crawled over. Its eyes were full of curiosity and some desire. Yang Tian saw the little blue dragon's interested eyes and said with a smile, "Xiaolong, if you like it, you can play with it." After saying that, Yang Tian threw the black sphere to the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon swung its tail and used its small tail to accurately catch the black sphere that was even larger than its body. After catching the black sphere, the little blue dragon gently put it down and then circled around the black sphere. Yang Tian glanced at it and began to clean up the large pile of beast cores that had just been released. They were all superstar advanced beast cores, and there were at least 2,000 of them. Yang Tian was already used to seeing so many beast cores and was no longer excited. It was like a person who had received 100 million yuan in cash and looked at a large pile of money on the table. In the beginning, he must have been extremely surprised and excited. Then, when he brought more cash over, he didn't feel much, because 100 million was more than enough. Slap! Yang Tian had just sorted out the different levels of beast cores when he saw the little blue dragon swinging its tail and hitting the black ball. The transparent shell on the outside of the black sphere, as well as the layer of black shell on the inside, shattered instantly. When the outer shell shattered, a bright red light was emitted from the sphere. It looked like the sun at dusk. At the same time, a powerful energy fluctuation was emitted from the sphere. What is this thing? Yang Tian looked at the glowing red sphere, his mind full of question marks. At this time, the little blue dragon raised its upper body and lay on the red sphere. Its two claws scratched the sphere continuously, its eyes full of joy. "Xiaolong, what is this?" Yang Tian asked curiously. "Squeak, squeak, squeak." The little blue dragon told Yang Tian that it was a Star Lord level beast core. A Star Lord level beast core, which was more advanced than a super level beast core, looked like this. This was something that Yang Tian did not expect. It wasn't Yang Tian's fault because such an advanced beast core hadn't appeared in the universe for a long time. A Star Lord level beast was already equivalent to a divine beast in the eyes of ordinary humans. It couldn't be hunted by ordinary cultivators, unless it was a great Star God realm cultivator who took action. It had been so long that many cultivators had almost forgotten about the existence of such beast cores. That was why so many cultivators would rather be modified than improve their level step by step. It was because it was too difficult for them to obtain beast cores to improve their level at the advanced stage of the superstar state. The only way was to swallow a large number of low-level beast cores and spend a lot of time slowly accumulating them. After the shell of the Star Lord level beast core was opened by the little blue dragon, it began to quickly release energy to the surroundings. It shrank after only a few minutes. If it had been left there for a few hours, the entire beast core would have dissipated in the air. The red light in the logistics energy cabin was getting denser and denser. There was a faint fishy smell in the air. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon couldn't swallow the beast core at their current level, because the energy contained in the beast core was too strong. When Yang Tian was about to put the beast core into his storage bracelet, the little blue dragon suddenly flew into the air and turned into a dragon more than 10 meters long. It opened its mouth and sucked the beast core into it. Xiaolong, shocked, Yang Tian hurriedly tried to stop him. However, before he could finish his sentence, the little blue dragon willfully flew out of the tunnel with the beast core in its mouth. The little blue dragon wasn't a human being after all. It was still beastly, and it couldn't control itself under such circumstances. Yang Tian immediately got up and quickly followed it. The little azure dragon quickly flew out of the ship and arrived in the air above it. After circling a few times in the air, the little blue dragon turned into a dragon dozens of meters long. When Yang Tian arrived, the little blue dragon had already swallowed the Star-Lord level beast core. Roar! After swallowing the beast core, the little blue dragon suddenly raised its head and let out a loud roar. Then, the little blue dragon flew away. Yang Tian was shocked and immediately followed it. At this moment, Yang Tian felt that the little blue dragon's emotions seemed to be affected. The little blue dragon's behavior seemed to be driven by a strong instinct. This was what humans called beastly nature. The little blue dragon kept flying away from the ship. However, the further away it was from the ship, the faster time passed. Yang Tian was very worried. Luckily, the little blue dragon wasn't flying very fast. Its body had already begun to digest the beast core's energy. A huge, oppressive energy wave was emitted from the little blue dragon's body. Yang Tian gritted his teeth and used his mind power to fly quickly through the void. After more than an hour, he finally caught up to the little blue dragon. If he looked back, the mighty sky ship had already become a small dot. Time would affect space. It was easy to come, but if he wanted to go back, the distance would become very far. That was the true case of looking at a mountain while running a horse to death. At this moment, Yang Tian didn't care about this. After catching up to the little blue dragon, he used his mind power to shout, "Xiaolong, stop!" Hearing Yang Tian's voice, the little blue dragon, who was suddenly controlled by a strong instinct, finally woke up and stopped. The little blue dragon, who stopped, turned its head and looked at Yang Tian helplessly. Exotic beasts like dragons were born with a strong desire to devour. It was like a hungry lion or tiger that couldn't help but want to eat fresh meat. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.